This is an interesting and fascinating story about a young man. His name is Jean. This is a person who was once reborn. He became the best in the field of heavenly and earthly cultivations, although many in heaven called him a demon. One day a council was held in heaven. It consisted of celestials and immortals. These were righteous cultivators and heavenly protectors from demons. Everyone stood in a circle in heaven and waited for only one command. "Let's catch this heavenly demon." One of the celestials shouted. Jean stood absolutely alone. They were all very angry with Jean. "You've committed too many terrible crimes, Jean. You are simply a disgrace to righteous cultivators." One of the celestials shouted loudly. "You clearly don't belong among us. Today we will kill you and return harmony to the heavenly kingdom." The second celestial screamed. "Don't twitch or do anything stupid. Jean, you are surrounded by 10 celestials and 108 immortals. You must understand this, that you can't escape us, and now you definitely can't escape." The girl shouted, "If you have enough brains, donate your copy of the Book of Heavenly Transfiguration. You will be given the chance to end your life yourself. Otherwise, we will tear you to pieces and take the book ourselves." Jean laughed very loudly. "Bravo to the righteous cultivator, human rights defenders against demons. You tricked me into coming here. It worked out well for you. Yes, I have killed many people in my life, but I have a clear conscience. Just so you know, I have never killed innocents," Jean said. "Those who died by my sword were the worst of the worst, and there were also those who proclaimed themselves to be moral. You are the so-called immortal sect. It's just that you are clearly afraid of my earthly and heavenly cultivation. That's the only reason you called me a demon," Jean said. "I'm no match for you. When it comes to shamelessness, I'm afraid to upset you. I have bad news for you. The Book of Transformation has long become one with me," loudly and confidently said the genie. "Transfiguration will not be weak-minded. Give the Book of Heavenly Transfiguration, or we will make you suffer in pain in this fiery hell, day and night, forever. But since you don't want to give it up, in this case, you will have to die." "Yes, that's right. Death to the demon," everyone else shouted. At this moment, all the celestials and more than 100 immortals began to quickly circle around Jean. "This demon has too many tricks in his arsenal," they shouted. "In order for us to prevent any surprises, let's do it together." One of the celestials put forward such a proposal. Jean did not expect such a turn of events. "Since you called me a demon, that means I will become this very demon," he said loudly, "to end your lives once and for all. I have no choice but to use the Heavenly Transfiguration Book since you want to kill me." "You yourself wanted this," the genie shouted loudly. "Now I will show you how insignificant you all are," he said. The spell melted his hands to the sides, and red rays of light began to go up from him. Energy rings swirled around his body. "This demonic technique of heavenly shock," they screamed. "We urgently need to get away from here as quickly as possible." The celestials screamed. The demonic technique began to work. Energy flashes and explosions occurred. Flames were everywhere. "Let's run away faster. Save ourselves, whoever can," we constantly shouted they. An explosive energy wave covered everyone. It was the magic that constrained movement. Too late. Once this technique is applied, the one who performs it and the one whom it strikes will die, Jean said. "How can you be so evil?" the celestial shouted. "Kill him. Don't let him use your power," they continued to shout. "Stop resisting and enjoy your last moments," Jean said. So this battle continued. Well, now we will tell you about everything in much more detail. This story will be about how it all began and happened. So imagine this. Cruise ship, somewhere in the middle of the ocean. The weather was nice and hot. Jean found himself sleeping right on the table of this liner. He was in the shade under an umbrella. Waking up, Jean raised his head and looked around. He felt tired and in pain. The pain even brought tears to his eyes. "Am I not dead?" Jean asked himself excitedly. Jean quickly looked over his body. There were no wounds, cuts, or abrasions on him. He examined his hands carefully. "What happened? I don't understand. Am I reborn?" Jean said. "Hello, My name is John, but I am also famous by another name. As the famous demon of the immortal world, it only took me 500 years to ascend to the pinnacle of immortality. I myself passed through heaven and earth, and my magic sword defeated all the rulers of different worlds. Bravo, I didn't go. Countless forces surrender to me. They bow at my feet just to stay alive, only to save your life. Unfortunately for me, the heavenly cultivators were so afraid of me that they created as many as 10 destructive formations to surround me and try to seize my heavenly book of transfiguration. But I didn't know that the heavenly book of transfiguration had already merged with me, Jean said. Jane continued to talk. When my cultivation path was interrupted, I took the opportunity to use the power of the heavenly world, cultivation, just to rediscover the second path of my life. Jane stood on the upper deck and looked at the waves. Since I was reborn, I should become even stronger than I was in my previous life, Jean said confidently. The most important thing is that sooner or later I, Jean, will return to the immortal kingdom, and I use the blood of these scoundrels to quench all the rage in my heart that has accumulated during this time. Newsflash, something else that can't get out of my head. Juan, yes, her name is Juan. She is a beautiful girl who is pure and kind. She was trapped in the palace. Wait for me. I will personally pick you up from that place, Jean said, looking at the sky. Jane began to remember the past. It seemed to him for a second that someone was calling him behind his back. Well, how can they know me, and how do they know my name? Jean was surprised. Jane, I told you to serve Hu Shao. Who told you that you can just take it and relax? Let's hurry up and come back. Jean heard this voice addressed to him. Jane began to remember. I remembered a cruise party I attended when I was about 20. This grand party was organized by Hu Tianhua himself. It looks like I'm back to my student years, John thought. Hu Tianhua is a domineering and ruthless person who stole not only my girlfriend in his past life, he even set me up harshly and forced me to take on the debt. Multi-billion-dollar debt for no reason. All events from the past began to emerge in Jean's memory. Skip through each event like a film. He recalled that this man was his blood enemy. We were happy with her. My father had to sell all his family property and ask others for help to pay off his debts. But trouble happened. At some point, my father fell ill with cancer. He was diagnosed with lung cancer. My father did not have the opportunity to spend money on his treatment and medicine. Heartbroken, he sat and read a piece of paper on which the diagnosis was written. Not much time passed. One pair of time was replaced by another. Winter came. And then one winter night, a great misfortune happened. It was just a blow for me. My father died in a dilapidated house with an air leak in the room. There was practically nothing in the house. He fell to the floor and died. Over the next few years, Hu Tianhua, he wouldn't let me go because of my debts and imprisoned me in a small coal mine. There I dug underground like a damn day and night. I practically did not see white light, Jean recalled. When I finally managed to escape and find out the cause of my father's death, I knelt in despair in front of his grave and cried, "Father, no, come back!" I screamed out of despair. Some time has passed. Later on this cruise ship, I jumped into the sea and committed suicide. It was a very desperate step. I understood that I would not swim to the shore. The front was very far away. I didn't even understand where he was and which direction. I just knew that this would be the end. I put an end to a life of suffering and failure. I drank too much water and began to drown. The seabed was pulling me up. Slowly, I sank to the very bottom. Little did I know then that fate had something more in store for me. Instead of dying, I accidentally ended up in the ancient continent of immortals. How did this happen? I don't know. It's probably just fate. Time passed, and I rose to the top of the world and achieved the status of a venerable demon, defeating everyone, the brightest geniuses in the immortal world. I fought like a real warrior. I learned everything that I never even knew was possible. I didn't even know that this could exist. So I, having gone through 18 circles of hell, having 36 levels of heaven under your feet, I stood confidently on top, like a mountain, making the world tremble in fear of me. "Hey, you idiot, stop standing here. and I'm both talking. Are you deaf and dumb? The man shouted loudly and indignantly at Jean. He was so angry that he thought he was going to explode. From his mouth, drool flew in different directions. Okay, I'll go to him right now, said Jean. He was very determined. Since it so happened that I was reborn, the debt must be paid in blood, Jean thought. Nam was very angry. His face turned very red from anger. The eyes became crazy. Today you will feel the wrath of this magnificent day, Jean thought to himself. What kind of idiot is this guy? Now it's no surprise to me that his girlfriend is cheating on him. Why doesn't he seem like himself today? Thinking, Chief. In a beautifully decorated hall, almost entirely in gold, the holiday was in full swing. People were bustling about, walking, talking, drinking, and eating. Jean entered the restaurant and remained standing near the door. And then I saw my wife. We went to college with her, and 2 years later, we fell madly in love. I did everything I could to make her happy. We walked together. I gave her various gifts, and after some time our friendship grew into true love. To satisfy her vanity, I constantly saved money and worked in various dirty corners of the city. I just wanted to prove my love to her. I loved the moon, but I forgot that its light illuminates my face only in the night. Ruin has changed a lot since she started her affair with Hu Tianhua. Huan saw me and said, "My God, Jean, are you here too? How unexpected. What is he doing here?" Hu Tianhua said. It was indeed a very unexpected face-to-face meeting. They stood with glasses of wine and had fun. But at that time I had no time for fun. Not everything was boiling for you. Hu Tianhua Wu smiled and said, "Jean, are you here? Great, you're on time. I want to make you happy. I officially announce to you that your girlfriend Huan is now mine. How do you like this arrangement?" he said. He was very pleased with himself. After all, he took almost everything from me. He began to hug my boyfriend tightly with one hand. With his other hand he raised his glass and drank wine in honor of this event. Huan also smiled back at him. "It sounds like toast. I invite everyone to drink to this. Friends, let's raise our glasses. For our happiness," Hu Tianhua said. "A poor man like you is simply unworthy of her," he continued. I was hugged right in front of my eyes. They had no idea what was going on inside me. He began to poke his finger at me. "If I lived with God the way you do, I would kill myself without any hesitation." Hu Tianhua said. All the people began to rejoice for them. Rejoice for their happiness. They raised their glasses and drank to them. Everyone was happy, laughing, smiling. They all had a lot of fun. "It will be interesting," they said. "Mr. Hu, we congratulate you." They continued. "My experience gained after living 2 lives shows me the right path. My heart is calm like a quiet river, so it is hardly possible to cause waves of rage. Hu Tianhua thinks that he can make me angry and make me lose him." Hu Tianhua expected a different reaction from Jean. Jean stood silently and looked at everything that was happening around. Is Tim so calm? His reaction is completely different from what he expected. Hu Tianhua thought, "Juan, I'm giving you one last chance. Think about it. It's never too late for you to apologize," Jean said. Hu Tianhua. Yi Ruan's face changed. They simply did not expect such impudence and courage from him. "Zhao, can you hear me? We can love each other again like before. All you have to do is make a decision," Jean said again. After these words, everyone in the hall laughed. The guests began to express their opinions. One said, "Friends, didn't I hear that?" The second one said, "This is very funny. Best joke of the evening." The third said, "And this guy is not a miss at all." He ran into the boss and started shouting at the janitor. "How dare you not answer Mr. Hu when he addresses you? Loser, why don't you leave here? You're ruining this place with your presence." The people in the hall were talking. "And what about completely deaf, idiot? I'm talking to you." He continued to shout the knife at the main one. Jean just stood silently and looked at him. The boss swung his hand at the guy. "I understand that I will have to clean your ears with my own hands, you scoundrel," the boss said. Just as the boss was about to hit him in the face, Jean quickly responded first. He sharply waved his hand, and the blast wave and lightning scattered in different directions. The boss began to fall, as if after a knockout. "Thebis Grakes, I Kroiker." Derudredistori cordigas. Hyplukabuzakuware sabas shawi kri. Way varig skos became completely white. The whole cheek turned red. It was a large hematoma all over the face. Blood and teeth flew from his open mouth to the side. He screamed in pain. The blow was so strong that he was thrown several meters to the side. He fell backwards onto the table and overturned it. The second table also twisted. All the dishes, food, snacks, and drinks fell to the floor. Everyone in the restaurant was shocked. There was a long pause, and everyone fell silent. Hu Tianhua. And the Huans simply opened their mouths in surprise. Nobody expected this. Jean was not afraid of anything at this moment. He put his right hand up and pointed his index finger at the ceiling. Electricity just oozed from his finger. The left hand also looked at the floor. However, the same electric lightning came straight down from his finger. Everyone was shocked. "Lord, what's going on here?" the girl screamed. "He's just some kind of monster, very scared," said the second girl. "God, did he kill him?" "No, not this." Screams were heard in the hall. Jean stood in the center of the hall opposite Juan. He looked into her eyes. "What are you doing, Jean? What the hell are you doing? Why did you hit him?" "How did you do this?" Juan said. "This is not the same guy I once knew. The previous John was scared to death and would simply run away in tears if he saw me together with Hu Tianhua. Was he simply tired of living?" Juan thought. "I do not understand what is going on. How does he manage to stay so calm now?" She looked into John's eyes and said, "Juan." John just stood there and looked into her eyes. Then John smiled and said, "I understand, Juan, that you don't want to be with me again." Jean asked, "I hope you never regret your choice, and you don't have to kneel before me one day. In a past life, I gave you all of myself, but in the end you let me down too much," John said. "But now in this life, I have been reborn as an immortal, and now we will only play by my rules." "You bastard," said loudly to Hu Tianhua. He was just seething with anger. "Who gave you the right to beat my servant so cruelly? Who gave you the right to humiliate and insult my beloved girl?" Yelled loudly, "Mr. Hu." Mr. Hu was simply beside himself with rage and anger. He pointed his finger at John and shouted loudly, "On knees! I said on your knees! Urgently apologize to my girlfriend." "You pathetic bastard! You are a small person. You insulted and humiliated me in front of all my friends. I'll just feed you to the sharks now." Yelled loudly, "Mr. Hu." All the guests stood and silently watched what was happening in the restaurant. Juan also decided to express her opinion. "Jean, don't you think you've gone too far?" "I had no idea that you could be so rude and cruel," Juan said. At that moment Juan's best friend approached her. Her name was Lily. "Horror, how arrogant and stupid. Joan should have left you a long time ago." "I don't understand why she waited so long to make this decision," a friend said. "Quickly kneel down and immediately apologize to Hu Tianhua. You are just a pathetic wretch. How dare you go against him? Even the Lily guy is several times better than this idiot. Why are we even talking to him? Just look how poorly he is dressed. How did he even get here? Who let him in? Where did he get the tickets and invitations?" One girl standing off to the side raised her hand and spoke. "Friends, why don't we forget about this? Jean and I were classmates. I'm 100% sure that he didn't really mean to hit him," the girl said. The girl continued, "To be honest, he didn't start hitting first. Her name is Anya. She was my classmate," John recalled. "I have a good heart. She is polite and always extremely attentive. Having sat down with my classmates, she was the only one who treated me well. Maybe we were very close in life. I knew that she was always happy to see me, but, alas, then I was only blinded by Juan." All Mr. Hu's guests and friends stood behind him. It was a real security council. "Are you thinking of jumping off? Don't even dream about it. You shouldn't have touched him at all. I give you one last chance on your knees and ask for my forgiveness," Mr. Hu said. Hu Tianhua was very angry. "Quickly ask for forgiveness, otherwise I will have to feed you to those who live at the bottom of this sea," Mr. Hu said loudly. A man with a beard and glasses also began to express his opinion. "Jean, as a teacher, I order you to immediately apologize to Hu Tianhua. The consequences will be different. The consequences will be very serious." It was the Minister of Education, Mr. Ma. John looked at Jean and said, "Sorry, But this is the reality. The world is ruled by rich people like Hu Shao. All the guests around were simply angry. Joan continued talking. You are too simple and ordinary. You're too ordinary, too poor. I could only be neglected, isolated and ridiculed as a scum of society, as trash. Evil, said Huan. I am very glad that I made the right choice then. Jan stood absolutely calm and smiled a little. He wasn't scared at all. He won't get an apology. I'll tell you more. He will be punished by me very soon, Jean said calmly. Ho Tianhua, he laughed very loudly and hysterically. You're just a pathetic idiot who doesn't realize it. Who did you open your mouth to? Laughed and asked, Mr. Hu, poor boy, do you like it so much and want to be threatening? Then come on, punish me and show yourself in front of everyone. Let's show you what you can do, weakling. Mr. Hu continued talking. Jane smiled a little. He looked at everyone and said, So what? As you wish, you yourself asked. Just don't regret it later, Jean said. He spread his legs wider, spread his arms to the side, screamed loudly, and lightning began to sparkle all around his body. The crack of lightning could be heard throughout the ship. Yellow light and an energy field filled the entire restaurant. Ho Tianhuo screamed very loudly in pain. Smoke came out of his house from his mouth. The hair stuck out, electrified in different directions. What nonsense! From where there was lightning on the ship, people were screaming around. Almost ball lightning flew throughout the restaurant. Then the lightning came together and formed a real ancient symbol. Mr. Xu Tianhui, are you okay? The way you feel you are alive. Did your friends shout? Mr. Huli was pressing on the floor, writhing in pain. He was all sparkled by lightning. Lightning electric current passed through his body. What is this? Oh God! What's happening? How painful it is! Writhing in pain, Mr. Hu. At this time, lightning did not stop striking his body. There were a very large number of them. From the great electricity, his body was smoking. But it was simply unbearable to watch. Hu Tianhua. The crackle of electric lightning and the smell of burning spread throughout the country. It seemed like he was burning alive. He was shocked with such force that he was shaking. The pain was so severe that Mr. Hu could no longer bear it. His eyes became simply white. His pupils were not visible. Hair on one's head. They were sticking out in different directions from the electricity. Smoke was coming from his ears. Jane had already seen and imagined how this freak ended up in the cemetery, and his soul left his body. He was already happy about this. Hu Tianhua lay on the floor and did not move. He was smoking from electricity. The Minister of Education ran up to him and began to speak. What are you waiting for? Call him an ambulance urgently. He needs to be taken to the hospital. He ran up to them and his friend took them into Mr. Hu's arms and said, Okay, we'll do it now. One shouted loudly, Run to the captain's cabin and ask him to swim to the shore. Some ran to look for the captain. Other people carried Hu Tianhua outside on their backs so that he could get some fresh air. At that moment, Jean's classmate, named Anya, came up to him and put her hand on his shoulder. She looked at him with clean and kind eyes, exactly the same as then. Jean, I'm worried about you, she said. Please, I beg you, be careful with Hu Tianhua. Now he's out of your sight. He will not forget this and will try to take revenge on you for this at any moment. Just be careful, please, Anya said. I think you know he has a lot of connections. Please don't fight him alone. Otherwise you will lose, told Anna. Thank you, I will remember and keep this in my head, Jean said. See you again, Anya. He said goodbye to his wives and began to leave the ship. He was heading somewhere ahead, but where is he going? Only he himself could know about this. Jan got off the ship and landed on the ground. I caught a taxi and went about. It was good summer weather outside. He sat in a taxi and looked out the window. He thought and reflected on what happened to him. I thought about my rebirth. Of course, he thought about the future and his mission on Earth. He thought and reflected about the book. He thought that he was now immortal. Let the book of heavenly transfiguration give me a second life. I have almost completely lost the power of a cultivator from my previous life. This is of course bad. I could use this now, Jean thought. Only a trace of the original demon chi remained in my body. Mike was sitting in the back seat of a taxi. He again felt energy waves passing through his entire body. Primordial demon chi is the purest of all other similar demon chi in the world. I came across this power in the spine of the dead fairy. It's very strange that all my strength evaporated, but the demon's energy remained completely, Jean thought. Jean arrived at an ancient cemetery. A large, massive old fence surrounded this cemetery. The sun was setting below the horizon, and so there was a lot of red and yellow light in the sky. A taxi stopped near this old cemetery. Jean said that he would like to get out here, but there was not a soul around. "Thank you very much for the ride. Here's your money for the trip." Jean handed the driver money. "Young man, wait a little," said taxi driver. "Are you really going to get out right here near the cemetery? But this place is not at all safe." Sweat appeared on the driver's face. These are signs of anxiety. "Young man, it will soon get dark outside, and here you will not be able to find transport at all. There is no stop nearby. Cars rarely drive here." "Let me take you back," the taxi driver said. Jean was in a very good mood. He looked at the taxi driver and smiled. "Thank you very much for your concern, but don't worry, everything will be fine." "Believe me," Jean said. The taxi driver opened the window and watched as John left. He took a deep breath. What a time these are. Young people now do not listen to their elders at all. The taxi driver said worriedly, "If I had known that this is where you needed to go, I would have even refused to take you," the taxi driver thought. "People die here every month," the taxi driver said through the open window. Suddenly a strong wind began to rise outside. There was definitely no blame. The weather was good. The driver realized that this was not without reason. "We need to get out of here urgently," the taxi driver thought. He pressed the gas pedal and quickly drove away from this place. Jane went for a walk in the evening cemetery. He walked near various old monuments. One got the impression that he was looking for something or someone. "In my past life, I tried to become immortal, but the world made me a demon. Now the primordial power of demon chi will reveal my demonic path. I will, of course, kill all the hypocrites," Jean said. He continued walking through the cemetery and looked left and right, but the power of the demon chi must first be activated. Only evil will not help here, Jean thought. There are many different types of chi, such as chi. Grievances of spirits and demons bring evil to the world. Jean continued to reason. It was late evening. The cemetery was already very dark. Jean stopped. "This is the most evil place in Yunzhou. This is exactly the cemetery." Jean began to remember what once was here. This place is all strewn with corpses. Many thousands of soldiers died here. Once upon a time, the biggest battles took place at this place. The most epic battles. "I don't even know how many infidel souls are buried here," Jean said, "but I know for sure that they are probably enough to return the power of the primordial demon chi." "What's going on?" said Jean. In the cemetery he saw a man and a woman lying. Suddenly it became very light. The place where they lay seemed to be illuminated by lanterns. They looked at Jean and seemed to ask for help. "Spirit creation and cultivator spirit," John thought in surprise. He looked at them and tried not to approach them for now. He wanted to assess the situation and understand what was really happening here in this cemetery. A man with a mustache and goatee stretched his hand forward and began to ask for help. He spoke very slowly, almost without strength. "Help us." He spoke. Jean just stood and watched. "Previously I was too stupid, very arrogant, and was reborn without knowing much about the earth." Jean did not expect to see a spirit here at all. It was a very unexpected meeting for him. Jane began to remember and reflect. Most likely, this could only mean one thing, that the earth already has its own specialists. Jane straightened his palm and 3 glowing sharp balls flew out of it. They resembled 3 small ball lightnings. There was a bright glow from them, and great energy was felt. But why is the energy force so weak, Jean thought. Suddenly someone coughed from the side, and a man's voice was heard. "Huang Fu, humble yourself, I beg you, no one will help you." Jean turned and saw an old man in front of him, with white hair, white beard, and mustache. "Or who is he?" asked the old man. Jean realized that he was superfluous at this incomprehensible celebration of life, and decided to leave. "Oh, stop!" the woman screamed at him. "Help!" the others shouted. A white light fog appeared around this place. This old man became very angry. "Stop, Lord, don't worry. I was just passing by. Don't worry, don't pay attention to me. I'm already leaving." Jean said quickly and got ready to leave. A white and blue cloud began to gather around Jean. Yellow tickets began to fly around the body. It was clear that this old man began to use his magic against him. No wonder the taxi driver said that this was a terrible cemetery. Jean had already begun to leave, and at that moment the old man shouted loudly, "Well, stop, boy. Who do they tell?" The old man clearly began to use magical power because there were already people around him. Magnetic waves. This strange old man was really very angry. His anger even shook his head, and his hair stuck out in different directions. "Wait, I told you," the old man shouted. "Do you think my primordial powers will allow you to leave?" asked the old man. "Primordial forces," the Jean asked loudly. "It's strange that your powers have become primordial," Jean thought to himself. Jean was very surprised. "Old man, who are you to call your primordial powers right in front of me? Who are you to tell me this?" Jean said. At this moment, the Jean really began to get angry with the old man. The old man just went wild with rage. "How dare you even talk to me in such a rude tone, boy? I stopped you on purpose because I saw your great potential," the old man said to Jean. "But apparently I was very mistaken, so I'll have to burn you." The old man got angry and shouted loudly. The old man put his hands forward in the direction of Jean. Blue, red, and purple fire began to burn around the hands. The old man got angry and turned on his magic. "This is rarer for a boy, right in this cemetery." The old man shouted very loudly. He waved his hands and a flame of multicolored fire flew towards Jean. The energy field had already begun to work and the blast wave was flying straight at him. The man who had recently asked for help rose from his feet and loudly shouted towards Jean. "Run, young man, run quickly. This is the fire of the spirit." He screamed in fear. "If it touches you, it will burn you to ashes." The fire of the spirit burns everything in its path and turns it into ashes. The man continued to scream. Jean stood in his place, but the fire was really creeping up to his feet. The girl and the man were very scared. They began to communicate with each other. It was all loud and emotional. "Grandpa, what is this guy doing?" the girl asked. "He just stands still. He hasn't even taken a single step to the side. Does he really want to die?" The girl continued talking. The old man began to laugh hysterically. His laughter annoyed everyone in the area. I think even the dead didn't like him. "But she's an impudent boy. You're afraid that you won't be able to cope with me, right?" the old man shouted loudly. He put his two hands forward and sent the entire energy wave towards Jean. "Just a little more of a boy, and you will know what an old man like me is capable of." The old man screamed, "Meet me. This is my power, and now it will send you to the next world," the old man said. Bright flashes and the crackle of electrical discharges rang out throughout the cemetery. A very bright white light blinded everyone around. The ground underfoot held me back a little. A man with a beard and mustache stood and watched everything that was happening. He was shaking from the blast wave. He looked at the genres and regretted what was happening, so much so that he even shed a tear. "It's a pity. He was so young," the man said. "He came to our aid, but fell to the power of Master Chen. Now we are definitely doomed," sadly the man said. But at this time, in a bright flash of multicolored colors, the silhouette of a young man was visible. His laughter could be heard from this energy cloud. "You gave me time to absorb them," Jean said. From a distance, it was clear that Jean was holding the demon's throat with one hand, made of multicolored energy. It looked like the head of a predatory fish with many sharp teeth. At this moment, Jean thought, the ardor created by the spirits is made from pure chi power, and it will help restore the power of the original demon chi to me. Jean began to put together different compositions with his fingers. John began to put his fingers in different compositions. It was like figures denoting something magical. At this moment, he cast a spell, and an energy ring formed around his fingers. Jane put his feet in a wide stance and said something that only he could understand. He looked forward. His energy simply went off scale, and an energy field was already being created around him. "In my past life, I learned the art of primordial demon chi. I also acquired the unknown talent of the majestic demon, said Jean. I called it martial heaven demon technique. This makes it possible to use the gift of the primordial demon Shi without putting in much effort. At this moment, the old man turned to the Jin. This means that I have been improving my knowledge of the creation of spirits of fire for hundreds of years. Seriousness. The old man looked at Jean with a serious look and spoke. The fire will never go out until you become a big pile of ash. And you must know the most important thing. Your suffering only intensifies his flame. The old man spoke confidently. The old man turned to Jean and observed what was happening around him. At the moment, he was practically invisible. He was in an energy field with white, blue, and purple fire around him. He was surrounded by his magic, surrounded by your power. Jean concentrated as never before. He used all his strength to find and summon the demon. Remember what he could once do. Primordial demon Shi, come on, appear, Jean whispered. Jean. He took it with his own hands and compressed all his energy into one small ball. The reluctant demon Shi appeared, Jean said again. Let's show up, the Jin shouted loudly. He spread his arms and legs to the sides, screamed loudly, and frantic energy appeared around him. Red flames began to swirl. The energy began to transform into various animals and fish. The heads of terrible fish began to appear with their teeth from the tongues of this flame. Jane stood in one place, was very calm. He put his left hand forward, and fire just burned from his palm. These were violet and blue flames that rose up 30 centimeters. As a result, the fire and wind simply disappeared in the cemetery. Everything became visible around. The old man watched as Jean stood opposite him and held a small light in his palm. He was very surprised. What? How did you do this? The old man said. What have you done, boy? How did you even do this? Who the hell are you? Where is my flame that I have practiced for so many years, and where has it gone? The old man asked loudly. Jean just stood there silently, closing his eyes. He knew one thing. He is much stronger than this old man. He just wanted to see what he could do. Then Jean opened his eyes. He looked at the old man carefully. He knew that this would happen, but still he smiled in his heart. For a second he thought that the old man was really very strong, but it didn't seem like that. In an instant, 3 giants appeared behind Jean. 3 giants appeared. These are 3 demons, with a large body, a large head, and strong arms. Their eyes were burning and they had a lot of teeth. The horns on their heads were simply terrifying. Each of them was holding some kind of weapon. It was a huge hammer, a stick, a spear, and a sword. These giants stood and towered behind the Jean. The old man was simply in shock now. Has he ever seen anything like this? He didn't understand at all how this boy possessed such strong magic. What is this anyway? Asked the old man. The old man suddenly fell to his knees and spread his arms to the sides. I definitely can't stand on my own 2 feet. What is this? It's probably fear, the old man said. These 3 big scary demons were brandishing their battle weapons. They shouted in a language no one could understand. This instilled even more fear. The old man was on his knees and bowed his head low to the ground. He begged for mercy. He surrendered. My instinct tells me that I need to submit to your strength. I must submit if I want to live, the old man said. I'm here. I'm always ready to listen. John waved his hand towards the old man. If you want to talk, talk. You started too boldly in my direction. I was kind. I just wanted to leave, Jean said. The old man was on his knees. He put his hands on the ground, constantly lowered himself upside down, and begged for mercy. Jean was stronger than ever. He had very powerful support behind him. According to him, his magic simply worked 100%. Sparks, lightning, energy fields, everything was involved. Old man, how dare you attack me? Have you committed an unforgivable sin? You didn't even know who I was, Jean said. Jean was very focused, full concentration. The old man remained on his knees and begged for mercy. The old man looked around. What happened? This terrible fear and pressure on me disappeared. Imagine, maybe it was just my imagination, the old man thought. Young man, what the hell did you just do? Asked the old man. He raised the head of the knife, and his face was simply torn with hatred. It was his. Anger simply overwhelmed him. I will now take and eat your soul, simply because of what you did." The old man shouted loudly. He began to walk vigorously through the cemetery. With every step he took, golden sparks scattered to the sides. The ground shook underfoot. The old man again felt his energetic power and strength. He loudly shouted spells and waved his hand towards Jean. Blue and white flashes appeared in his hand, which he was about to throw towards Jean. The old man made a huge leap towards Jean. It was practically a flight above the ground. All the power of your energy and electricity. He aimed it straight at Jean's head, and Jean just stood there and held the red light in his hand. The red light in Jean's hand grew to a large fiery dome. It was an energy barrier and protection. With all his might, the old man hit his head and body against this barrier. Then there was another blow, and a clap of the red energy field. The blast wave simply carried this old man away, and he hit the tree trunk with all his might. Screams of pain echoed throughout the cemetery. The old man was lying face down. He was practically choking on the mud that was near his face. This made him cough loudly. The old man gradually began to rise. He was on his knees and leaning on his hands. There was practically nothing left of the left hand. There was bare bone. The old man was on his knees and spitting out the dirt that filled his mouth. "You can't just kill me," the old man said. "White I am from the White Dragon Temple on Black Cloud Mountain. I hope this means something to you," the old man said. Jean stood and pointed his finger at the old man. There was still a small white flash near the finger. "This is the energy that could have killed this old man." "I don't care," said Jean. Jean took it and clenched his hand into a fist. He sharply put his index finger forward. From the finger, like a laser beam, red fire flew forward. This red laser beam went straight to the middle of this old man's chest. He screamed loudly in pain. But the beam had already pierced right through him. That was the end. "Remind those who go against me will die at my hands without mercy." Jean watched as the old man fell through and through. The old man had a very huge hole in his chest. Jean turned around and began to leave the cemetery. It seemed to him that someone was calling him. "Young man, wait, don't leave." Jean turned and saw that mustachioed man with a girl calling him. "Young man, thank you. My name is Kung Fu. I thought that I was finished and would be killed by this evil cultivator. But to be honest, I didn't expect you to save me at all." The man said, "Thank you again." Jean didn't really like being praised. "I am very grateful to you for your kindness and for your kind heart." The man continued talking. "There's no need for gratitude. It's a complete nonsense," Jean answered. "No, and yet wait and listen to me," the man said. "Young man, if you ever need my help in the future, then just ask me. Believe me, I still command some respect in this South Island area," the old man said. "This is a very interesting story, but I will answer you." "No, thank you," Jean said. At this moment the girl also became angry. She couldn't stand it and screamed. "Stop immediately." The girl was very indignant and vented. "What kind of attitude is this, boy? Do you even know who my grandfather is?" the girl said. "Hey, pretty girl, won't be so rude," the man said. "Grandpa, what are you doing? Why are you stopping me?" "I'm right, you know it yourself," the girl said. "Grandpa, you know we don't like to be in debt to people. I have a suggestion. Let's do this. Let him ask for whatever he wants. We will give it to him." "Stop it, granddaughter," the man said. "Are you serious? Are you trying to force me to ask you for something?" Jean asked. Jean smiled very hard. "Check me out. I'm afraid you won't be able to afford it," Jean said. "My past life, a great power, asked me to take something just to end my feud with them later. They were willing to give up the planet for cultivation as payment, but I did not agree to accept even that," Jean said. Jean looked at this sweet young girl and smiled. "And tell me then, please, how dare this mortal girl tell me, ask for whatever you want? How can I ask something from you? Are you out of your mind?" Jean said. The man folded his hands in front of him and began to apologize for his granddaughter. "Huang Fu Yuan, forgive me. I spoiled her too much as a child." Mike stood and calmly looked at this couple. The man continued to apologize. "Sorry, I apologize for her rude behavior." "Grandpa, what are you doing? Why are you apologizing?" the granddaughter said. Unexpectedly for all the men, He reached with his right hand into the chest inner pocket of his jacket. For a while he was looking for something in his pocket. The man took something green out of his pocket and held it in his hands. "Young man, this is the family treasure of the Huangfu family. I want to give it to you for saving me and my granddaughter," the man said. The grandfather gave something valuable green to the young man with his own hands. "Grandpa, what are you doing?" "This is divine jade, which is very expensive," the granddaughter said. "Shut up," said Grandpa. Tears flowed from the girl's eyes from resentment and pity. Firstly, she was sorry to part with the treasure, and secondly, she was offended that her grandfather yelled at her for the first time in her life. "The berstray stoiks, ikadoa, sefrawer stories tree, oinzazaraki kontur alfernantoi." The master is 2 steps away from becoming a grandmaster, the granddaughter said in a serious voice. Just now, this young man was able to kill Master Chen. Did he kill him with one hand? It was as if he had crushed an ant. "What do you think his cultivation level is?" the grandfather asked his granddaughter. The granddaughter still had tears streaming from her eyes. She was very excited and worried. "Grandpa, are you saying that he can be an elite grandmaster?" the granddaughter asked. "My instincts have never let me down. He can definitely become one," grandfather said. "It has great potential." "My girl, experts of this level are very rare." Grandfather continued talking. "Believe me, they are rarely born in the modern world. We are all big, proud, and arrogant individuals. Ordinary families like us are simply nothing in their eyes. We're just not worth anything," grandfather continued. "Trust me, granddaughter, to make friends with a master of this level was worth it. You take and give him this divinely green jade," the man said. "But if he is as powerful as you say, Grandpa, then it was definitely worth it," the granddaughter said. "And he was so young that he could be considered the most powerful, elite grandmaster. Much more impressive than the asshole theme, which is already over 100 years old," the granddaughter spoke. Jean took his gift and walked along the forest path. To the left were rocky hills, to the right were bushes. He was pleased with himself. Jean began to think, divine jade. As the name suggests, it is a spiritual object that contains the divine power of heaven and earth. It is the naturally formed divine power of water, heaven, and earth, which can activate a certain potential of the human body. Jean saw a large stone and decided to go up to it and sit on it. This jade is considered very rare, even in the world of immortals. But I didn't expect to find such a precious item in this world. Jean was surprised. Jean sat on top of this stone and looked at the green jade in his palms. "I have to use it and absorb it, just to increase my cultivation level," Jean thought. Jean put his hand forward. He opened his fist. He spread his fingers out to the sides, and the jade began to smoke. Light little green smoke began to rise upward. Then Hao sharply squeezed his palm. He clenched his fist as hard as he could. Green smoke came out of the fist. It stopped much more. "I wonder what divine power will be activated now," Jean thought. He extended his hand forward. Green smoke was already spreading all over his hand from his fist to his head. Jean began to close his eyes, and even with his eyes closed, he saw how the green light was replaced by blue. These were such bright lightning and flashes that it was impossible not to see them. Jean concentrated very hard. He didn't know what to expect now, so he closed his eyes. Green smoke swirled around his head. The energy field was also nearby. He felt this energy. Jean opened his eyes. He saw how everything next to him was covered in multicolored smoke. The energy around him was so powerful that the smoke turned into lightning. "This is a success," said Jean. Jean jumped off his large rock and walked 10-15 meters away from him. Once again, I looked at this stone, pointed my hand at it, and all the power and energy flew towards this stone. In a matter of seconds, this stone exploded. Fragments of different sizes flew in different directions. At the place where the stone stood, there was simply a large accumulation of smoke. It was as if the stones weren't even there. Which I am, the lightning strike that I used against Hu Tianhua on the cruise ship was very weak. The power of this strike is much more powerful than what it was. This move is very good for killing enemies against horns, but it is too weak against enemies with high cultivation. Yes, since this blow requires some preparation. One of the disadvantages of lightning strike is, as long as you have enough spiritual energy in your body, you can perform it directly, and the force of the blow will gradually increase as your cultivation level increases. Jean thought and looked at his hand, from which green smoke and energy emanated. Suddenly, very unexpectedly, it flew past across the sky like a fiery comet. She flew at very high speed. With all the force, this fiery comet crashed into the rock and created a large explosion and a fiery flash. Stones flew in different directions. Jane sat on a stone and watched this whole picture. He didn't understand what it was and who could have done it. It seemed to him that he was alone here. Jean began to look at the place where this meteorite fell. He didn't really know what to call it. Flash, meteorite, comet. For him, it was still a mystery. What is this? He just stood there and thought what it was. Jane saw a flying man in a black suit in the sky. There were flames and fire next to him. There was also a large flash of fire ahead of him. It was a mechanical suit. That's who was in this black mechanical suit, with all his strength, fell backwards to the ground. After the fall, the suit turned purple, and immediately another character began to descend from the sky towards him. He was already dressed in a red suit. To us he looked like a big red robot, like Iron Man. Ling Xiao Shuang, how are you feeling? After flying hundreds of miles, you still can't escape me. The man in the purple suit stood up. Bosun, leave me alone, you shameless pig, he said. Suddenly, the purple suit began to fade a little. The disappearance of the suit began to begin with the right hand. The suit disappeared like computer pixels. A little more time passed, and the suit practically disappeared. There is only a little purple protection left on the legs. Underneath this suit was a girl with white hair. A man in a red protective suit hovered in the air above the girl. The girl screamed loudly, "Don't come near me." It turns out that this world has high-tech battle armor, Jean thought. Probably because I've changed, or because the whole world has changed too? Jean asked himself questions. Or is it because I was a normal person in a past life? But I never knew about the existence of high-tech exo-armor. The red protective armor began to gradually disappear from the man. Already half of his torso was visible. A little more time came, and all the red protective suit disappeared. It turned out to be a tall young man. "Lin, I advise you to stop resisting," loudly he ordered. "I've been chasing you around for almost the whole day now. I have finally caught up with you, and if I don't get a hold of you today, then all this pursuit will simply be in vain," said this young man. "Shut up, you're just a shameless, dirty bastard," the girl shouted. This young man began to laugh loudly. He felt his strength. The girl looked at Jean and thought, "Who the hell is this guy in this forest? Where did he come from here?" The girl quickly ran to Jean. She understood that in this forest, the only salvation for her was only him. Jean did not understand at all what was happening and who these people were. "Please, I beg you to protect me. Save me, please. He has very dirty intentions towards me. Do you think that any random guy can protect you?" Screamed, "Hey, this guy. Stop even thinking that you can just leave me. You just have to listen to me like a good girl, that's all." He continued. This guy looked smug. "Hey, open your eyes. Look at him. Look how scrawny he is, and he looks like a total loser," the guy said. The girl grabbed Jean's hand. A young man stood opposite. Nick pointed his finger at them and shouted something. "Believe me, I don't need armor to deal with him. I can kill him with regular bare fists. Now, baby, come to me and do me good. Caress less than you know how, or it will be worse for you," said the young man. "Bai Feng, you bastard. I would rather die than let you touch my body." The girl screamed, "You must get out of here quickly. Translate. It's my fault that I got you into this trouble. Just run, and don't worry about me," the girl said. The young man continued talking. "Lin, you're seriously injured, aren't you? My armor was also broken by me. There's nothing you can do now. So why don't you just give up? And I should be grateful, only because a person like me has an ordinary sympathy for you. Rubbish." Very angry, the young man shouted at the girl. The young man with red hair began to grab the girl harshly and roughly. "Just obey. Give yourself to me," he said. "Oh, you bastard, let me go," the girl said, and resisted. The girl began to scream and cry hysterically. "I told you to let me go, bastard. She screamed loudly throughout the forest. The young man grabbed her by the arms and threw her to the ground. "Lin, I pursued you for a long time, but you rejected me every time. You always acted like a goddess." He spoke. "Today I'm going to drink some good manners out of you. Then I'll lock you up forever, and you'll become one of my disposable bitches." A genie came up to them and said, "Listen, you let her go and get out of here while you live." The young man was simply shocked by the impudence that Jean had now shown. No one had given him such rebuff. "What did you just say, poor man?" He spoke the word. "But say it again to my face. Go ahead if you are such a brave boy." A young man with red hair said loudly. Jean just stood there and looked at him. "Get the hell out of here, you freak. I told you everything." John said loudly. In fact, John hasn't been this angry for a long time. The young man with red hair laughed loudly. "Wait, did I hear you correctly?" he asked. "How dare you threaten me? Do you even know who I am?" The young man with red hair stood up, clenched his fists, and was ready to start the fight. "No one dared to talk to me like that on the southern island. But you took the risk, and so I will beat you to death." He jumped on us with his fists to beat him. He tried to use his punches. He had little success. Jean very easily repelled any of his blows. "I don't care how strong you are," the young man with red hair shouted. "Your cultivation is not enough to defeat me, so you understand. I can crush you with just one finger." The struggle and fight began again. Jean grabbed his hand with both hands and did his signature move. He barely even used magic. Jane grabbed his hand. He pulled sharply. He ended up upside down in the sky. This was preparation for the hardest throw to the ground. Then Jean simply threw him on the ground with all his might. A young man with red hair flew several tens of meters along the ground. He left behind a trail of dust and smoke. The young man with red hair was now slightly knocked out. He lay with his head on the ground and moaned in pain. The body was gloriously broken in all places. Jane slowly approached him and asked, "Hey, you upstart, you know I'd like to see you crush me with one finger." The young man with red hair rose slightly above the ground. "How dare you provoke me? Believe me, I will make you regret that you were even born." "Wait, now you will die," said the young man with red hair. He brought his watch to his face and pressed the button. A hologram with a red suit began to appear on the clock. A young man with red hair shouted loudly forward. After a few seconds, a protective red suit began to appear on his body. At first, it began to appear on my hands. Literally a minute later, a man in a red protective suit stood in front of the genie. It certainly had impressive armor protection. The size of the red man was several times the height of John. "Now I'll show you the power of my armor, bastard," the red man said in a loud voice. There was no fear on the John's face. It was as if he was waiting for the red man to finish before making his answer. But the red man shouted loudly and pointed his finger at him. "Now you will see how I will crush you with one finger. Please be careful. Bai Feng's armor is ranked in the top 10 in terms of strength on this island. They are made from super durable alloy. You must quickly dodge him," the girl said. Jane was absolutely calm. His eyes glowed yellow. This meant only one thing. He completely concentrated his attention on the enemy. The Red Iron Man began to attack Jean. He really wanted to hit Jean with one of his fingers, but Jean quickly responded by grabbing his finger with one hand. Then Jean quickly showed his superpowers. He clenched his finger very tightly into his fist, and the finger simply shattered like crystal. The girl widened her eyes in surprise and covered her mouth with her hand. "How is this even possible? This armor is made from the strongest alloy. How could he even break it?" the girl asked herself. The man in red armor began to fall to the ground. He shouted loudly, "Go to hell, boy. Who are you anyway?" Red Iron Man struck with his other hand. He struck with his powerful big fist, but John simply put his hand in front of his fist and stopped the blow. All sensors inside the suit began to show that the strength was running out. They showed that the hydraulics couldn't handle it. The sensors indicated that the enemy's strength was much stronger. Jane was several times shorter than the Red Iron Man. He held this Iron Man with one hand by his fist. This was enough for him to restrain this monster. The girl stood with her mouth open in surprise. She watched all this. "I didn't even expect how much strength he has. It's impossible to believe," the girl said. The young man with red hair was very nervous. He understood that he was losing, so he screamed from powerlessness. "Damn it, I'll just blow you up, boy," the Red Iron Man shouted. A gun came out of his stomach. She began to aim in the direction of Jean. When the lightning struck, Jean quickly said. He put out his hand in green energy, and a lot of lightning flew from it towards the Iron Man. Absolutely, everyone's iron-red suit was touched by lightning. This suit began to become covered in green light. There was a terrible cracking noise that said the metal had begun to melt. But the Iron-Red Man was strong enough to fire the shot. A large fiery rocket flew towards Jean. This is a fiery red rocket, approaching at high speed. It flew straight to Jana's head. An stood still, seemingly in control of the situation. Suddenly everything exploded. Flashes of fire and light lit up the entire sky. Dust and sand rose into the sky, and nothing was visible at all. The girl was terrified. The Red Iron Man laughed loudly. "That's what you get for pretending to be a hero. You should have run away from here as fast as you could, and not get in my way." The girl was very upset. She prayed to the Lord God that this young man would remain alive. After all, he did such a brave thing, stood up for her. "God, I'm so sorry, it's all my fault. He died only because of me. This guy is not guilty of anything. He just happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time," the girl said. "You don't have to cry, he's nobody to you, trust me. This boy is definitely dead. He took on too much, now he got what he deserved," the Iron-Red Man said. Suddenly, from the dust that was still standing after the explosion, a voice was heard. "Was that about me?" said Jean. The young man in the red-green suit just stood there, in shock. He didn't understand how this was possible. But how is this impossible? He was indignant. He began checking all his sensors. "This was my most powerful blow." "How did he manage to survive?" asked the man in the iron-red suit. Jane emerged from the cloud of dust completely unharmed. "And now you will recognize my signature blow," Jean said. "Or blow, now it's your turn to feel my blow," Jean continued. Jane began to speak very loudly. Divine lightning power fry him. White and green lightning began to appear everywhere. This energy force filled almost the entire forest. Electricity crackled everywhere. There was a loud explosion, and literally in 1 second, the suit, made of red super-durable metal, scattered in different directions. On the ground lay fragments from the hands of the legs of the body and protective plates of various sizes. All bruised and dirty, beaten on the ground, lay a young man with red hair. He looked at Jean with one eye, but he could no longer open the other. The young man with red hair continued to lie on the ground and tried to threaten Jean. "You damn bastard! How dare you destroy my best mech suit? It costs so much that you cannot pay for it even with your life." Jane stood calmly and looked down at him. He didn't have an ounce of regret for this freak. "That's all you can say, as your last word?" Jean asked. The young man with red hair laughed. "You said the last word, don't make me laugh. Do you have the courage to kill me? And you're just a piece of shit. You have no idea what kind of power supports me." Jane jumped up and kicked in a roundhouse. The force of the blow was complemented by his energy. It was instant that this young man with red hair didn't even have time to realize. Energy lightning struck this man with all his might. He turned over several times in the air. He was shaking, as he shakes when there is a short circuit at the wires. The young man with red hair fell to the ground once again. Leaning on his hands, he began to speak. His clothes were torn. "Do you really dare to do this?" the man asked. At this moment, Jean held his left hand up. Green, yellow, and white smoke came out of it. It was all an energy field. This is his strength. This is his energy, which surrounded him from above like a tornado. "Your death was already decided the moment you turned against me," Jean said. The young man was on his knees and begging for mercy. He covered his face from the blows with his hands. "No, wait, stop, I was wrong. I'm sorry," he shouted. Jane was about to leave, because he had nothing else to do here. "Wait," the girl shouted to Jean a little. He turned around. I should have listened to what she wanted. Jane looked carefully at this girl. "What do you want? Tell me. Just please hurry up. I don't have much time," Jean said. "You really are a cultivator?" the girl asked. She admired him. She had never met a cultivator this close before. The girl decided to turn to Jean for help. "Could you please help me get home?" the girl said. "My mechanical armor is broken. I don't even have any navigation device, and as you can see, I'm injured too. I'm also very afraid to go home alone, the girl said. Jane agreed, and they walked through the forest. The nature was simply wonderful. A beautiful, colorful bird was sitting on a tree. When Jean and the girl passed by this bird, it fluffed its tail. This bird looked like the most beautiful peacock. They walked in silence for some time. Jean just wanted to be quiet, but the girl didn't really know what to ask, and she had a lot of questions. By the way, please tell me what is your name, the girl asked. My name is John, so what? John answered. And they moved on. Very nice. And my name is Ling. Brother, are you also from the Cultivation Union? The girl asked John in surprise. Jane even stopped. Cultivation Union? Never heard of him before, John said. Brother, look how strong you are. Even Bai Feng was smashed to pieces by you. You did it all with just one hit. You're so strong and you don't even know about the Cultivation Alliance, the girl said. Then you know how to keep the intrigue. You intrigued me very much. I haven't been this interested for a long time. Tell me more about this union. And the girl began to talk. The Cultivation Union is a group of people who have come together to form a great force. This top echelon alliance is mysterious. Their cultivation level is simply unpredictable. They are also said to have influence throughout the world. The girl continued talking. Jane listened to her very carefully. However, the threshold for joining the Cultivation Union is very strict, and not many people are accepted into it, the girl said. Believe me, with your strength, you can join them very easily. And the Cultivation Union also has rivals. They are called Ascension Leagues. It is a powerful organization formed by all the metahumans and mechanical warriors in the world. The girl continued to talk. These two organizations are at odds with each other, and they are constantly fighting. The Ascension League suppress the Cultivation Union, resulting in difficult times for the cultivators. At this moment, Jean began to think. The Cultivation Union, the Exaltation League, none of these organizations existed in my past life. Jean recalled. It seems like the world has really changed in some ways. Beifeng was a member of the Southern Island branch of the Exaltation League. The girl spoke. She was upset and tears were rolling down her cheeks. Brother, you must not tell anyone what happened today. I beg you, said the girl. Otherwise the Bai family and the Exaltation League will come after you. If you have the opportunity, it is better to leave the South Island for a while. The girl told him, if they find out that you killed Bai Feng, then you will face suffering that is even worse than death. Jane listened to the girl and constantly thought. He compared all the facts he had just heard with what he already knew. I wonder who metahumans are and why they are so afraid. Metahumans are people who have mutated and become incredibly powerful. They were born thanks to a special serum. People with different abilities. You shouldn't perceive them as weaklings. The girl spoke. Both metahumans and mechanical warriors can easily increase their combat power. This is why they are able to suppress cultivators who evolve slowly and cannot resist them. Mechanical wars are nothing, since they depend only on external mechanical forces, Jean thought. No matter how much the world has changed, since I am a venerable demon, therefore I will destroy all the evil in this world. This time I will definitely be standing in heaven. But this time, not an immortal, but as a venerable demon, Jean thought. Now I'm just on my own in this life, Jean said. He stood completely focused and looked forward. He clenched his fists tightly. Jane accompanied the girl to the city. We have all reached here. Perhaps nothing threatens you anymore. You don't have to be afraid. I think I will go, Jean said. The girl grabbed her jacket with her hands. Jean, wait. I don't know anyone in this city at all, and my family will only be here tomorrow. Can I stay at your house for the night and spend the night? The girl asked. This was a very unexpected question that took Jean by surprise. He thought and began to scratch the back of his head. Spend the night at my house, but I live in a hostel. Then it turns out, brother, that you are a student. Do you study? How old are you then? The girl began to ask questions with great interest. Brother, can you give me a tour of your college? Not that interesting. I've never been to college before, the girl said. Jane agreed, and 20 minutes later, they arrived at the university by bus. They got off the bus and looked around at the beautiful, tall buildings. Ian immediately began to remember. This is Donglin University. This is the place where I studied in a previous life, and now I have returned here. Jean and the girl walked towards the university. The girls were so interested that she walked ahead of Jana. Young people were sitting on the bench. They saw a beautiful girl and began to discuss. "Look how beautiful she is," one said. "She is simply divine." The second guy said. "I wish I were in his place," said the third guy. "The brothers are very hungry. Let's go to the cafeteria first to eat," the girl suggested. She was in a very good mood. She turned and ran towards the dining room, humming some strange, funny songs. In the dining room, he recognized his old acquaintances. They discussed Jean. Jean had gone too far, one of them said. Hu Xiao would have to stay in the hospital for several days because of him. When Hu returns from the hospital, he will simply kill Jean. "You have been together with Jean for a very long time. You're great for leaving him on time," a friend said. In fact, Juan was a little worried. She didn't like this conversation. "Lily, let's end this topic and this conversation," she asked. "You'll see, after you abandoned him, no one will look at him anymore, and you won't see a single woman next to him." "Nobody needs him," a friend said. Jean and the girl fed each other chicken. "Brother nuggets in your dining room are simply a masterpiece. I have never eaten anything tastier in my life." "I left one for you, take it," the girl said. Juan and Lily saw this picture. They were simply in shock. They widened their eyes and opened their mouths in surprise. Together, they shouted synchronously, "Jean!" The girl brought a piece of chicken right to John's face. It was clear that she cared about him. "Thank you, I'm not hungry, no need," Jean answered. The girl was so kind that she held this piece of chicken in her hands and continued to try to feed Jean. "Well, please, just eat one piece." "Ask," the girl said. The girl came close to John. She put one hand on his shoulder and extended the other hand along with the chicken to his lips. "Jean, this is really delicious." "Try it," the girl said. Suddenly Jean heard a familiar voice from the past. These were women's voices that he knew for sure. Jean and the girl stood practically in an embrace. Her hands lay on his body. She looked at him with loving, kind eyes and offered to try this beautiful, juicy, delicious chicken. "Jane, I don't understand who this is. Who do you think she is?" the girls asked. Joan did not expect that Jean would find a replacement for her so quickly. This made her very angry. His feminine self-esteem was hurt. "Quickly explain who it is and what's going on," said Juan. They were slightly shocked to hear such a request. The girl was a little scared. "Why should I suddenly tell you anything? Why do I even have to explain myself to you?" Jean asked. "Jane, I didn't expect you to be such a person." "Evil," said Juan. "I just can't believe it. Look at yourself. Look what you look like. I can't believe how quickly you found yourself a new girlfriend." Juan continued to speak. Lily's friend began to support her friend Juan. She was angry, as if it were her personal insult. "Jean, you acted like a freak," she said. "Lying bastard. Hate you," she continued. "If I'm a freak and a scumbag, then who are you, Ruin, and your Hu Tianhua?" Jean asked loudly. "And together you are just two complete fools," Jean said confidently. A lot of people gathered during this dialogue. This is Jean and Juan. Not that they met again. People spoke. "No, Ruan is having an affair with Mr. Hu. The whole university knows about it. But Jean has a new girlfriend, and she is really very beautiful." The boys spoke. "Yes, you really can't argue with that. This girl is really much better compared to Juan. She has it all. Figure, looks, elegance. She is simply divine." The boys spoke. The girl began to think. "Everything is clear. My brother Joan was in love with this girl. This was clear from the first minutes. Then, as I understand it, they separated and did not part on good terms." Juan began to be very loudly indignant and scream. "Jean, I'm just ordering you to get away from this bitch. Very menacing and evil," Juan shouted. The girl simply hugged Jean's hands. She looked calmly at Juan. "I was like, who are you anyway, to order my brother Jean?" the girl said. Joan became even more angry. She began waving and gesturing with her hands, pointing her finger at the girl. Juan continued to be nervous and indignant. "But damn, I gave you the opportunity to speak. Shut your mouth and remain silent." Juan screamed. Lily also decided to stand up for her friend Juan. "How dare you talk to our beauty like that, Juan?" did Lily say. "Do you know what kind of relationship she has with Mr. Hu?" The girl continued to hug Jean's hand. "I don't even know what happened to you and Jean. I don't know your relationship," she said. "I can tell you everything," Jean added. At this moment the girl got really angry. The fact that they were swearing at her was unreasonable. "It was you who deceived Jean. It was you who betrayed him," she said. "You know. However, there is one thing I would like to tell you now. Believe me, this will not be a compliment," the girl said. "You are just a creature who gave love and gave this pure relationship with John. Thank God that he is still standing and communicating with you. Jean is such an outstanding person. He is smart and intelligent. He is very strong and brave. And someone like you simply doesn't deserve his little finger." "Cities," the girl said. "If you have another one, you just have to forget about him. You shouldn't remember it so often, Jean. You have another relationship, so I advise you to forget about him once and for all," the girl said. Juan was very angry at such a bold and impudent statement addressed to her. "Oh, you creature, say just one more word to me, and I will tear you to rags. Shut your mouth and be silent. Nobody gave you a word here," Juan screamed loudly. The girl didn't like how she was treated and what they said to her face. Anger just seethed inside her. She began to turn on her magic and an energy cloud began to appear around her. Everyone was terrified. They didn't understand what was happening. They opened their mouths in surprise. They also had big eyes because of surprise. In an instant, the girl turned into a real warrior, wearing a mechanical protective suit. It looked very scary. "Come on, attack. Do everything you promised," the girl screamed. Out of great fear and surprise, Lily and Juan simply fell to the floor. Their legs couldn't hold them up because of fear. With big eyes they looked at this tall warrior in a metal suit. After a few minutes, the protective purple suit began to disappear. The blonde girl was already completely visible. "I warn you for the first and last time, don't you dare bother my brother again. Don't you dare bother Jean," the girl said. "Let's get out of here," said the Jean. "I don't like this environment. I don't want to see these people next to me. They just disgust me," Jean said. "Brother, wait. Maybe we can eat something else," the girl said. But this girl had a mechanical suit, and she looked very impressive. "She's pretty strong." People from the crowd began to speak. Jean was very lucky to find such a beautiful and rich girl. "Look at Juan. She's just in shock." People in the crowd laughed. They left the dining room and still heard conversations behind them. The cheapest mechanical suit costs $10,000, and this suit is simply top-notch. I can't even imagine how much it could cost. They spoke. The girl walked calmly in her hand, holding her chicken, and really liked it. Jean began to look at his phone. He was looking at his notebook. "The world has changed so much. I'm not even sure this number still exists," Jean said. In his notebook, Jean found a phone number with the inscription Dad. He decided to dial this number. Suddenly, the call tone started ringing. They answered the phone. "Hello, Jean, why did you call me?" "Father, is that you?" Jean asked in a trembling voice. "Jean, you're doing well. Tell me honestly you don't have enough money again," my father said on the phone. Over the phone, the father began to calm Jean down. "Son, don't worry. I understand everything is normal. It's normal to spend a lot of money when you have a girlfriend," father said. "I'll send you some money a little later," the father said. "No, I have money. I just wanted to hear your voice," said Jean. "Where did you learn to be so kind?" the father asked. Father Jana saw the head of the construction team enter his room. He immediately realized that the boss would now start scolding him. An angry and very fat boss, wearing a golden construction helmet, entered the room. He began waving his arms and shouting loudly at his father. "And why are you just sitting while everyone else is working? Don't be so lazy. Take a cement shovel and go to the roof," the boss said. Jean began to worry about what he heard. "Father, what is that noise? What is happening to you?" John asked because his father had not hung up the call yet. The father was very upset. He was tortured by this hard labor. "It's okay, son, don't worry. I'm just at work and I can't talk. Sorry, I have to go. We'll talk to you later. One of these days, I'm going to visit my friends in Yunzhou. I will definitely come and meet then, father said. Okay, father, I will definitely wait for you, the Jean said on the phone and ended the conversation. Jean was very upset. This was evident from his face and appearance. That girl continued to eat her delicious chicken. Even though the world has changed, I'm very glad that my father is still alive. I can communicate with him. I can talk to him on the phone. I can even see him. Jean's home. The boss continued to divide himself into Father Jean. Listen to me carefully. If I catch you with your phone again, I'll just fire you. No salary or bonus, the boss said. Sir, I'm sorry. Excuse me, boss. I was just talking to my own son. I don't care if you don't work. You'll be fired. Jean became very worried after this conversation with his father. First, he was excited about the phone conversation because he heard his father alive again. Secondly, he realized that money problems still existed, and the father works, so that there is money. Jane asked the girl, "Tell me please, do you have money?" "Yes, of course," the girl answered. "Tell me how much." "Jean, don't be shy. Tell me how much do you need? You are like a brother to me now. I will give you as much as you say." The girl said, "It's very good that you have money. Then go to the hotel and stay there. Stay there the whole night. And please don't follow me," Jean said. The girl was already in love with him. She was happy to be next to such a strong and brave young man. The girl grabbed Jean's hand. "Wait, Jean. Could you take me to the hotel? I'm a little scared and I don't know this city at all," the girl said. "Don't want," Jean answered. "Believe me, I still have too much to do in the city. And time is too short," Jean continued. "But I'm very scared, to be honest. These are the only ones in this hotel. I don't even know where he is. I might get lost," the girl said. The girl ran after the gentleman and tried to stop him. She didn't want to be alone. In fact, she became very attached to him and practically fell in love. "Jane, just take me to the hotel, or I will continue to follow you wherever you go." "Do you need it?" the girl said. "Wherever you go about your business, I will still follow you. You have no choice. Just take me to the hotel." Jane looked at the girl sideways and dissatisfied with his appearance. He was tired of how long she persuaded him. She was already too intrusive. "Okay, I convinced you. Let's go," Jean said. Jane continued to think constantly. Thoughts about the past did not leave his head. "In my previous life, I was called a demon, but I fell in love with a fairy of the imperial palace. She was sometimes mean, sometimes she was just moody. Her character was somewhat similar to this girl named Lynn. She also calls me brother, just like that past love of mine also called me brother. Back then, love between immortals and demons was natural, but she was ready to face heaven. To do this for the sake of standing next to me. Brother John is a heavenly herb that grew in my backyard. Take this for you. It will help you improve your IQ. Then his beloved fairy told him, "I want to tell you one important thing. Brother, I will have to leave soon for a while, so don't miss me." "Okay," the fairy said. "You must understand one main truth, brother. So that I can be with you, I have to train much harder, so when I become much stronger, I will be able to marry you," the fairy said. The fairy was very beautiful. "This is the best girl you could ever meet." Jean thought they always did. She was in his thoughts, in his head, and most importantly, she was in his heart. "I love you very much," the fairy said and winked with her eye. "Ciao, air. Wait, sooner or later, I will return to the ancient immortal continent and find you," Jean said. Meanwhile, near a large building, it was a tall skyscraper. This is one of the most expensive and comfortable hotels in this city. A black presentable car stopped near the steps of this hotel. A man and a girl named Lynn came out of it. A large red carpet was laid out on the steps. "Brother, look, this is the hotel where I stayed." "Let's go inside," the girl suggested. Suddenly the doorman shouted loudly, "Stop! Where are you going?" he asked. "I have one question for you." "Why are you here?" asked the doorman. "Paul, Jean, and Lynn." It was a very strange question to hear from the doorman who works at the hotel. Jean thought to himself, "But you still have to answer this stupid question." "Believe it or not, we are here to stop for the night," Jean said. The doorman continued to consider himself the most important thing in this hotel. "Gentlemen, have you made your room reservation in advance?" If you haven't made a reservation, then I can upset you that all the rooms are already occupied, the doorman said. The Lin girl was confused and began to worry. Sorry, but I didn't know that it was necessary to book rooms in advance. I didn't think there were so many visitors at your hotel, Lin said. The doorman continued to be smart and command. Forgive the Lord, but this is the most elite, popular, and prestigious hotel in the entire city. I have no right to let people through without reservations. The doorman continued talking. If you haven't made a reservation, please leave. Suddenly, an unknown man began to approach them. What's going on here? Please answer, this man asked. The doorman turned to him in fear. It was clear that he was the boss here, the manager of this hotel. The man with glasses came closer to them. He stopped and took a closer look at them. Wait, aren't you Jean? The man asked. It was Van Baden, the manager of this hotel. Now Jean was really a little surprised. Hello. Do we know each other? Do you know me? Jean asked the hotel manager. The hotel manager looked Jean up and down. It seemed like he was peering into every point of his body. Of course I know, you have become quite famous. Party tyrant? You dared to offend Mr. Who? You really have guts, man, the hotel manager said. The hotel doorman began to complain to the manager. Sir, this guy told me he could stay here overnight, but they did not reserve a room for themselves in advance. This is against our hotel rules. The hotel manager looked at Jean angrily and askance. He's telling the truth, is that so, Jean? There was a lot of anger and hatred towards Jean in his eyes. The hotel manager became very angry. He raised his hand up and shouted, Do you even know who the second largest shareholder of this hotel is? So I'll tell you. This is Mr. Who's father. Very angry, said the manager. You impudent boy, you brought this girl here and you want to rent a room for the whole night? And why are you crazy? Said the managers laughed loudly. And you came to the wrong place, so get the hell out of here. Remember, boy, only high society can afford this hotel. Jane stood silent and listened. A poor person like you only has enough for a small room in an alley or on the street in a box. The doorman spoke. Jane interrupted him and began to speak. I'll tell you again, we want to stay the night. So go and prepare a room for us, Jane said confidently. No, you have to take your dirty wench and get the hell out of here. Several blocks away, so that not even your spirit can be heard here. The hotel manager shouted loudly. Jean didn't like this very much. With a sharp movement of his hand, he turned on his magical power and electric waves. A hotel manager was struck in the face by strong lightning. The glasses practically flew off my head. Blood poured from the nose in all directions. Jean waved his hand again, and the electric discharges and lightning knocked the hotel manager off his feet. He did it so quickly that it was almost impossible to notice who delivered the blows. Jean did not want to tolerate insults directed at himself. Immediately after this, steps were heard. It was the sound of women's heels hitting the parquet. The footsteps were approaching with great speed. Soon these two friends appeared on the red carpet. The hotel's general manager was lying on the red carpet. He, like a boxer, was in a tough knockout. Juan ran up to the manager, grabbed him by the arms from behind, and lifted him up. Are you okay, Mr. Wang? Juan asked. Mr. Wang, tell me who had the courage to hit you, Lily asked. Juan and Lily, you are just on time, the hotel manager said. The hotel manager pointed his finger forward. It is he, the manager said. At that moment, his face was broken, there were bruises everywhere, and he was very scared. This poor man came to stay overnight in an elite hotel, plus he took this dirty girl with him, which he picked up somewhere unknown, the manager said. Why are you looking at me, you freak? The hotel manager shouted very angrily at Jean. At this moment, the girls supported him from behind. Juan was the first to come to the defense. Jean, you're a damn fool. You're just crazy. What are you doing? You have no place in elite society. How dare you even hit this wonderful man? Juan was indignant. You're a very nasty guy. I didn't expect this from you. I pray to God that my friend left you a long time ago. My only regret is that she didn't do it much earlier. I was indignant, my friend Lily. Juan clenched her fists out of anger. It seemed that she would hit Jean in just a second. I don't understand. First you eat together. Then, as if this wasn't enough for you, you appear on my path again. Now, in general, you rent a room in the same room together. Juan spoke. You really disappointed me, Jean, Juan said. Do you know what I'm interested in now? Tell me, Jean, how and where did you meet this little impudent creature? Juan asked indignantly. Jean, with great hostility towards Juan, responded harshly. It's none of your business. I hope I explained clearly. I just don't want to talk to you, and you really shouldn't care about me. You have someone to worry about, Jean said. If you don't tell me the truth, I'll just rip her face off with my nails. Very harsh and angry, Juan shouted. Rage and hatred were on her face. She clenched her fists and was ready to fight. Ruin had already begun to pull her hands and nails towards Lin's chest. She was ready to start fighting right now. A terrible rage covered her from head to toe. There was also a lot of jealousy added. The Lin girl was absolutely calm. She understood perfectly well that it was not her rival who wished her, and she did not have superpowers, and she was simply a weak girl, weak and very ill-mannered. Enough is enough, said Lin. Without thinking for a long time, Lin hit Juan in the face. It was a hard and biting blow, with the addition of magic and superpowers. Juan did not expect such a strong blow. Rubbish! How dare you hit me? Juan screamed loudly. Juan grabbed her face with her hand. The cheek was already red, and bruises were appearing on it. Now Juan was really scared. Then Lin, with a go-ahead blow, delivered another blow to the Juan's face from left to right. This is for my insults. This is for the words that flew at me from your dirty mouth. The blow was so strong that sparks flew from his eyes. Lin did not calm down and delivered another blow to Juan's face. And this is for insulting my brother Jean. This beautiful holy man is not worthy of someone like you. Get paid for your insults, Lin said. With this strong blow, she knocked Juan off his feet. Brother Jean may come to terms with your behavior, character, and statements, but I am not, never. She attacked the wrong one, friend Lin said. At that moment, Juan was sitting in front of them on the ground. She could not get up from pain and shock. Mr. Wang, why are you sitting? Call the guards immediately. Or call the police straight away. We have to do something. We can't just sit and look at this barbarity. Juan spoke quickly. But the hotel manager and Lily's friend looked at the girl and Jean in fear. They had no idea what else they could do, that they could get even worse than they are now. They understood that these young people were very strong. The hotel's general manager found strength and courage. He rose to his feet and shouted loudly throughout the street. Security, quickly arrest these two. Arrest this freak and this dirty wench immediately, he shouted. Jean and his girlfriend Lin just stood and watched the further development of this situation. They were waiting to see what would happen next. What are these cowards capable of? Very soon, many guards appeared in the forum from all sides. They practically surrounded the young people. Their faces were very stern. Mr. Wang, I never asked you, but now I'm speaking directly. Do me a favor and let them beat this thing to death, and I don't care how they do it, Juan said loudly. You heard it all yourself. Did you hear what she told you? What we stand for is to carry out the task quickly. The hotel manager began to give orders. He was still too weak, so his friend Lily supported him by the hand. All the guards prepared to attack the young people. Some were scratching their fists, some were adjusting their gloves. They were ready for a big fight and were ready to punish the young man and his girlfriend. Let's see who is ready to touch me, friend Lin said. Suddenly a loud scream was heard. What's going on here? It was Jen Kai, the head managing the hotel. Mr. Wives, hello, good evening. Glad to see you. Tell me what brings you here at such a late hour. He began to curry favor with his boss, the hotel manager. So this is Ina writing to me. Valerie. Good evening. Listening carefully. Mom Valerie is writing to me in a chat. Good evening. Don't you understand blocking the entrance to the hotel and staging such fights near the hotel is simply unthinkable? Don't you understand that all this has a bad effect on the reputation of my hotel? We will remember the most elite hotel, he told the manager. Mr. Zheng, this was due to this girl's bad manners. The hotel manager spoke indignantly. When we refused to give her and her penniless boyfriend a room, she became very cruel. Lin and Jean stood and watched everything that was happening. It was a real theatrical performance. At the moment they were competing with each other to see who would say the most nasty things and insults to them. Could this girl do this? How can a little skinny girl have so much strength? The manager wondered. You're finished, bitch, the hotel manager shouted. Now that the general manager of our hotel is here, you will regret everything you said and did. Why are you standing there and looking at me? Is he coming? Go and arrest them. Do your job. The hotel manager began to order the policeman. The hotel manager began to look very carefully at the girl named Lin. From the outside it seemed that he knew her. He continued to look closely and look at her from all sides, from top to bottom. The hotel manager, Juan, and the policeman did not understand what was happening to the manager. Why did he suddenly become silent? Why did his face begin to change, and he began to feel a little afraid? The hotel manager quickly approached Lin and began to bow at her feet. Now no one understood what was happening. I greet you, Miss Chairman Ling, the manager said. The hotel manager's face turned red with fear and shame. Sweat broke out. Please forgive me. I sincerely apologize that my staff did not recognize you. I once again ask for your forgiveness, the hotel manager said. Everyone opened their mouths in surprise. It seemed that at this time, everything around froze. Hotel manager Juan and friend Lily stood silently and looked at Lin. Each of them had sweat on their faces out of fear. What, she's the chairman? Almost in unison, they said. The manager was very ashamed. He was now furious for his team. What the hell are they even doing? These idiots couldn't even recognize the hotel's largest shareholder, Chairman Ling, the manager thought. She is a very famous woman, a leader in our country, and although the peoples are of great origin, there is no one in this city who does not know her. At that moment, Lin came closer to Juan. Juan was simply hysterical with fear. It seemed that the eyes were about to fall out from fear and surprise. Her mouth was open, and she couldn't find the words to apologize. Lin came even closer and gave her a very hard slap across the face. How dare a worthless piece of trash like you raise your voice and shout at me? Come on, show me how you will make me regret it. Now. Sorry, Chairman, I honestly didn't know who you were. Juan apologized. She held her face. She was in a lot of pain, but she was also very scared. Lily's friend stood nearby. She knew for sure that now she too could get hit in the face. Without thinking twice, Chairman Lin delivered the next blow to the man who was the manager of this hotel. With all her strength she hit him in the face, so that it seemed that his head would come off and fly to the side. Tears, teeth, and blood flew from his mouth. The blow was so strong that he was spun in the air. Weren't you going to beat me to death? You're a fat pig, Lin shouted. Everyone stood quietly at that moment. The hotel manager folded his hands in front of him and lowered his head. For God's sake, forgive me, Chairman, I didn't recognize you, the hotel manager said. You are a bunch of trash who insulted my brother, Lin said. Most importantly, you insulted me personally. Lin continued talking. The matter will quickly come to its knees and apologize to Jean and Chairman Lin, the manager shouted menacingly. In an instant, the doorman and the hotel manager fell to their knees and began to bow at the feet of Chairman Lin. They bent down so low that they hit their heads on the ground. Hey, Mr. Jean, we are very sorry that we were blind and offended you. We deeply apologize. Sorry, for God's sake. They spoke. Brother, let's leave here, said friend Lin. They turned around and walked away. Jean, you are an arrogant gigolo. You really have no shame. Very quietly, Juan was indignant. She was still scared because in the last few minutes, these events had turned upside down. Juan, answer me. How could Chairman Lin, who has such a prestigious and influential status, take care of such a freak as Jean? I think she's just playing with it, and when she gets tired of it, she'll throw it away like trash. Look, will you remember my words? She said that her friend Lily. Now that I've taken you to the hotel, it's time for me to leave, John said. John was a little embarrassed. He put his hands in the pockets of his jeans. He was waiting for a reaction. And what would Lin say to this? Lin was very embarrassed. She crossed her arms behind her back. Brother, you weren't even surprised when you found out who I was? Lin asked in a gentle, quiet voice. Jean was very calm. Jane turned around and began to move towards the exit door. No, I wasn't surprised, Jean answered calmly. I guess I'll just go, he said. Chairman Lin stood and looked at Jean with loving eyes. Many men follow me everywhere, but I've never met a man like Jean, Lin thought. Why does it seem to me that he has an interest in another girl? Is it so? Lin wondered. Jean walked out of the hotel onto the street. He was already almost on the roadway. Suddenly, his phone rang. He took his phone out of his pocket and began to see who was calling him. Hello, Master Jean. This is Juan. Can I ask you a favor? The voice on the phone spoke. Are you free at the moment? They asked Jana. At these moments, Jean was concentrated. It was an unexpected call for him. Jean continued talking. Please, if you are free, I will come to you right now. They continued talking on the phone. Juan and Lily. They spied and watched everything that was happening. Juan looked to see that Jean was already standing on the street. I didn't expect him to be thrown out so quickly, she said her friend Lily. Jean, no matter how much you cling to Miss Lin, you are still from different worlds. After all, it is even natural for him to be abandoned. Casala Juan. Yes, that's what he really deserves, added by friend Lily. A beautiful tall girl appeared on the street near Jana. Lily and Juan watched all this. Look, it's Miss Huang from the Huangfu family, Juan said quickly. Ms. Huang came closer to Jean. This is definitely her. I've already seen it on the internet. The friends continued to talk. They watched all this from around the corner of the house. I didn't expect her to be so beautiful, Juan whispered. Juan continued to watch and told everything she saw to her friend Lily. I don't know why Miss Huang is here, but the Huangfu family is one of the largest in the city. Her family is much more powerful than Mr. Hu's family. Juan said, It would be great if I could meet her. Miss came even closer to John. John, I'm here, Miss Huang said, as she stood and looked at John from head to toe. From around the corner of the house, Lily's friend and Juan were spying on them. Well then, let's go, said Jean. Then let's go, Miss Huang replied. They walked towards the black car to get in and drive away in it. Lily and Juan continued to watch. What's going on today? Juan asked. Why do all the best girls and women today stick to this bastard Jean? Just absurd. The reason why Miss Huangfu came here, is it just to meet John? Angry, Juan asked. Just look at how quickly he moved on to another girl. She said that her friend Lily, this guy is getting more and more arrogant. You were right in saying that he is a bastard, added by friend Lily. An expensive, representative black car drove up to the fence of a luxurious house. It was more like not a house, it was a real castle. A representative man in a jacket and tie met them in his yard near the gate. His hair was combed back, and he had a small beard and mustache on his face. The man opened his arms to the sides for a hug and meeting. Jean, you're here at last. Long time no see, you and I, the man said. I think they are very worried. Tell me, why did you call me today? What can I do for you and how can I help you in this city? The Jean asked the man. Let's not stand at the entrance near the gate. It's not nice or welcoming, the man said. Please come into the house. I'll tell you everything now. The man continued talking. Hey, Mr. Jean here, please come in, the man said. In the large living room in the middle of the room, two people were lying. A man in a light robe stood nearby. Jane, first of all, I would like to introduce you to this man. This is Liaoyu Xiangchan, the famous master of Longhu Shan Mountain, the man said, pointing to a man in light clothes. Master Liu, meet me, this is Mr. Zhang. This is a young man with a very unusual talent. The man spoke, now pointing his hand at Zhang. Mr. Huangfu, you should know that the world is full of scammers these days. Don't be fooled, or you will end up losing all your money, Master Liu said. Hey, Mr. Jan, these two are descendants of my royal family, the man spoke. They have been in this state since they arrived here yesterday, and the main thing is that they still haven't woken up. Could you please take a look at them and help us figure out what's wrong with them? The man asked, pointing to two people who were lying in the middle of the room and not moving. There is no need to look at them for long. These two were poisoned, said Jean. I didn't expect to meet and kill a ghost cultivator on this day, Jean reasoned. And now, after seeing these two people, it seems that I have stumbled upon another evil arts cultivator. What nonsense are you talking about? Vampire poison. So they were bitten by vampires. The master was indignant. How can vampires appear in broad daylight? Guy, have you seen enough movies? Now I can only judge one thing. I know for sure that you have never seen a vampire in your life, the genie said in a serious voice towards the master. Master Lu continued, Since I am the elder of Longhu Mountain, I can tell you with a 100% guarantee that there is no such thing as vampires in this world. We are in an era where science and technology are being developed at an incredible rate. You should not be fooled by these fairy tales and literary fantasies, the master said. Master Huangfu, I told you, you brought a charlatan into your home. He is not capable of anything. He can only make up fairy tales, the old man said. There were too many questions at that moment. If it's not vampire poison, what could it be? What do you think about this, Master Lu? The man asked. This is clearly due to the consumption of poisonous herbs and resulting from the accumulation of toxins in the body, Master Lu said. I have 2 bottles of strong medicine for these 2. I guarantee that after I give it to them, their symptoms will disappear and they will wake up. These 2 are so poisoned that they will soon turn into real vampires. So I recommend staying away from them and staying put, Jean said. Young man, I would like to advise you to stop lying and become an honest person. Draw the right conclusions and learn from me, an old man, Master Lu said. Master Lu began to open the mouths of the guys who were lying unconscious, in suspended animation, with one hand. With his other hand, from his bottle, he dripped the potion, his antidote, directly into their mouth. I did everything I could and more, Master Lu said. The medicine should take effect soon. Their lives are no longer in danger. I saved their lives, so don't thank me loudly, Master Lu said. Only a few minutes passed, and the faces of the 2 lying in the room began to turn black. Their eyes began to turn black. Their bodies moved and twitched a little. Suddenly, 2 guys lying on the bed suddenly sat down. Master Lu did not see this because his back was to them. He thought he helped these 2 and looked at Jean's reaction. Master Lu, be careful. They are behind you, the man shouted loudly. These 2 turned into real vampires and stood behind Master Lu. You mean they woke up, right? This is the expected result. After all, my medicine is just a treasure that ordinary people cannot get. They should be grateful to me for curing them, Master Lu said. That's not the point, the man said. Go back, Master Lu. Quickly look back, the man shouted. Everyone was scared because they understood what could happen now. This was their first time meeting vampires face to face. These 2 really turned into real vampires. Their faces were terrible. The teeth and fangs stuck out like those of real vampires. They reached out their hands to the master to grab and bite him. I believe you, there is nothing surprising there. Stop it. I know very well that they are waking up, Master Lu said. Lord, what are those sounds behind me? Master Lu suddenly screamed. He turned his head back slightly and saw real vampires behind him. One of the vampires attacked Master Lu with both hands. He began to look for his neck, strangle him, and then bite him and drink all his blood. Master Lu grabbed his head with all his might and kept him away from him. Lord, save me. What's happening? I didn't expect this. They should have just woken up. Master Lu shouted loudly for help. Vampires attacked the master from both sides. The vampires grabbed Master Lu by the neck and began to strangle him. He fought back with all his might. He fought back as best he could. At any second, the vampires could bite Master Lu's neck. Mr. Jine, I think it's time for you to intervene. Please do what you can do well, the man said. Jane turned on his super ability, turned on his energy, simply snapped his finger, and the 2 vampires flew in different directions from Master Lu. Boy, I was just a little careless. I don't need your help at all, Master Lu said. Believe me, I can handle these 2 alone. Mr. Huangfu, these 2 are too drugged. I guess I'll have to use my toughest strength, but I know for sure that I can handle them, Master Lu said. Come on, spectators, and witness the power of magic cultivation, Master Lu said loudly. He extended his right hand upward and began to speak his spells. White and purple energy rings began to appear in the room. Everyone began to get a buzzing in their ears from this. The room became very light and bright. Magic and superpower began to blind vampires. It seemed that they began to melt from this bright light. They made loud, unpleasant sounds. This magical artifact is one of my treasures. It can emit intense, ultraviolet rays. Master Lu said all this and thoughtfully scratched his beard with his hand. Under this ultraviolet ray, any viruses, any bacteria, and even any other toxins that are present in the body will be completely destroyed, Master Lu said proudly. This time, I will definitely be able to cure them, Master Lu said. At this moment the vampires were lying on the floor. They shouted they felt bad. Their fingers grew claws like those of animals. The vampires' eyes popped out. The white color replaced the black color of the eyes. They opened their mouth very wide. It looked like the mouth of some big beast. The teeth were deformed. Sharp fangs protruded. How do you like that, boy? Master Lu sank. Now you know exactly what I'm capable of. You saw that my skill is not just words. So let's treat me with more respect. He said, Master Liu Zhanu. In fact, this is true. Master Liu is worthy of being one of the well-known cultivators on the continent. This is a very strong man. Professionals are masters of their craft, the man said. I guess I'll tell you a big secret now. He smiled and said, Jean, your so-called great treasure only works because vampires are afraid of bright light. This is a simple truth that even children know. These two have not yet fully healed. If you continue to use the artifact, they will not survive, Jean said. The toxin has already invaded the internal organs of these two people. They are simply impossible to save. Jean spoke. Don't talk nonsense. You don't know anything, boy, Master Lu said. Jean stood in the middle of the room. Lying on the floor were two young men who had turned into evil vampires. Jean understood one thing. Decisions urgently needed to be made. It was simply impossible to delay, otherwise these two young men would die. Jean realized that he needed to act. He began to turn on his superpowers. John made a combination of his fingers. His vital energy began to fill the entire space in the room. There was so much energy that even the walls shook. Jane approached the young man lying on the floor. He touched his body with his hands. Energy and blue rays began to circle around the body. Energy seemed to flow through these young people. One person who was lying on the floor opened his mouth. Dark and black smoke began to come out of his mouth. This was the first sign that Jean was succeeding in healing him. After some time, the young man stood up. Chapter? The boy asked in surprise. He then looked at the man for a long time and silently. Jean was pleased and also surprised. Thank God you woke up, my boy, the man said. Well, thank heavens, and thanks, of course, to Jean. Now can you tell me what happened to you two? The boy began to tell his teacher everything in detail. Master, they looked like ghouls and were digging for a gold mine. The boy spoke in a quiet voice. Ghouls, can you tell us more about what exactly happened to you? Mister asked the boy. The man put his hand on the boy's shoulder to calm him down. Of course, we will tell you everything. In general, we went down to the gold mine to check one incident. As we walked for a long time, we unexpectedly wandered into a cemetery. The boy spoke in an anxious voice. The man thought and began to scratch his beard. Cemetery, did you say cemetery? The man asked. Boys, are you sure you're not mistaken? The gold mine is located hundreds of meters underground. How can there be a cemetery there? The man asked. The boy began to talk more emotionally. He began to gesture with his hands and prove that he was right. I'm sure it was a cemetery, honestly. I'm not lying, the boy said. The boy began to tell everything in small details. We saw some very strange creatures in the cemetery. He spoke. Most of our people were killed by these creatures. The boy continued to talk. He told how they quickly ran away from these strange creatures. At this moment, the boy began to cry very much. He remembered everything that happened to them. Then, at that moment, we were caught and dragged into a coffin. And we woke up here. I don't remember anything else, the boy said. At this moment, the gene began to speak. So, friends, I'm here for the gold mine, John said in a confident voice to everyone. Everyone around was a little shocked. The man understood that he really helped his students and saved their lives. Well, Jean was here only for the sake of a gold mine. He had no idea. To be honest, the man said, South Mountain Ground Mine. The South Mountain Ground Mine belongs to the Wang Fu family. There were several suspicious incidents that caused it to stop working. I'm talking, man. At first it was a ghostly cultivator who was killed by Master Jean. Initially, I wanted Master Jean to solve this problem with an employee. The man continued talking. Honestly, if it weren't for Jean, I wouldn't be standing here either, the man said. Thank you for saving us. I invited Elder Liu and Master John in order to completely solve the problems with the gold mine, the man said. Gentlemen, this gold mine ranks 10th in China in terms of mineral production. As a result, the profit from the mine is simply huge. If you are able to resolve this, then my Wangfu family will be sincerely grateful to you, the man said. Well, I don't see any problems, the old man said. I'm quite experienced when it comes to cases like this. With my skills and abilities, I can cope with this task in no time. Here the demon and I will tear off the head of any demon or monster. Master Liu spoke. Master Zhang, what do you think about this? The man asked. Jean was in no hurry to answer. He felt his beard and thought thoughtfully. I absolutely agree, and stand in solidarity with that old man, Jean said. He had nothing more to add. He was just thinking how to do it all in such a way as to win. Jean began to reason. We definitely have zombies. They should help me advance my cultivation. Underneath is a gene. Friends, let's not dwell on this. We need to pack up and get out the way. The man put an end to this conversation. They walked for a long time and came to the foot of the mountains. There were high green mountains ahead. It was all very beautiful nature. Jean already understood that it was here. They all stopped. This is exactly the place where the gold mine is located, the teacher said. Everyone began to look around in different directions. Grandpa, there are some problems that need to be solved over there, the girl said. I will accompany both masters so that later I can go into the gold mine with them. She continued talking. Let's stop talking and get down to business. Let's go no matter what. As long as I'm nearby, you have nothing to fear here, the old man said. Very suddenly, red and yellow lines appeared in the sky. It was like a trail in the sky after an airplane flight. These were clearly someone's tracks. What could this be, thinking Jean? He looked at the sky for a long time and thought. It reminded him of something, but he couldn't remember what it was. Suddenly, a man in a mechanical gray suit flew over them. Everything became immediately clear. Obviously, they are here for a reason. Damn it, these are people in mech suits. This is clearly someone from the Bai family, the girl said. Anxiety appeared on her face. One gray iron man began to circle around them. He seemed to be simply surveying the area. It seemed that he was taking a closer look at them. A few minutes later, the first iron gray man landed on the ground. Following him, another mechanical suit landed behind him. As a result, there were already two of them. Lightning and an energy field emitted from these suits. The girl covered her face from the strong wind with her hands as best she could. This wind appeared due to the fact that they landed on the ground. After some time, the suits began to disappear. There were two people in front of our heroes, a man with glasses and a woman with white hair. The blonde woman said, I think we arrived on time. Beiyang Qing, what are you doing here? The girl asked. The girl was shocked to see them here. It was clear that their presence angered her. I heard you were having problems there, so we flew here to help, the blonde woman said. The man just stood nearby and was silent for now. I need help, leave. We Wangfu family will deal with our problems ourselves. Who told you that we need help from the Bai family? We don't need your help, the girl said. Juan, I just heard that this gold mine has been having problems for a long time, the blonde woman said. Let's think logically. If these problems could have been solved earlier, why didn't you solve them? She asked. I'm waiting for you, frankly. This time, I will use the most advanced mechanics from the Bai family to help you deal with the situation in the gold mine, the blonde woman said. However, all profits from gold production from these mines will be shared with the Bai family. I'll get exactly half of everything. These are my conditions, the blonde said. May you fall through the ground, the girl said loudly. This made her very angry. She just wanted to rob their family, steal their business. Huangfu, I advise you to think carefully about everything, my girl. You are still young and probably too stupid. The woman spoke instead of watching the gold mine gradually become abandoned. It's better to take it and share the profits with everyone, the woman said. These words made the girl very angry. She even blushed with anger. She wanted to smash her fist right on this blonde's head. Bai Qing, the Huangfu family's gold mine will never be abandoned in life, the girl said. I specifically invited 2 of the best masters here to solve this difficult issue, the girl said. So you don't have to worry. Turn around and fly away from here. The blonde woman smiled slyly. You invited only 2 masters, not enough. Maybe it should have been 5. It would have been better to invite 20 masters at once. Although no, 1,000 masters would be much better. The blonde continued to laugh. I just find it funny who you found. It's funny the one you call masters. One is an inexperienced youth, and the second is just an old swindler. Juan, I really overestimated you by having such help in solving the problem, the blonde woman said, smiling. She showed with her fingers that this was too little help. Watch your words, Master Lu began to be indignant. You can call me Master Lu. I am a proponent of the fusion of technology and cultivation. I also have a well-known reputation in the martial arts world, the old man said. The blonde woman laughed. Yes, I heard about this somewhere. But not more than that. The only thing I don't understand is that I should be scared already, the woman said. The old man turned to Jean and began to explain to him. Baby, did you hear that? Even Madame Bai, from the Bai family, does not know such a name as Master Liu. Shame on her, the old man said. Bai Dongqing, you don't need to interfere in the family affairs of the Huangfu family. Very threatening, the girl said. Behind the girl stood young men in formal suits. The girl was very determined. She screamed loudly. Let's all go into the mine. Juan, you don't have to participate in this, but I really want to follow you and see everything with my own eyes. You can't stop me, right? The woman said. The girl was simply furious with anger. Remember the most important thing. If you encounter a problem, you will be responsible for it. Therefore, you yourself will be responsible for the consequences. The woman said. They all began to go into the mine together. It was cold and damp inside. The further they went inside the mine, the darker and colder it became. They walked neatly in a column, one after another. We kept a distance of 2 meters. Nobody wanted to get lost in the dark. With every step, the mine became darker. There is a distinct dark and oppressive aura to the action. It is she who destroys the vital forces of living beings. Jane walked along the mine and reasoned. I actually find it difficult for ordinary people to feel this, but staying in this mine for too long will cause anyone to become seriously ill upon leaving it. Ahead of them they saw a small light. This light was yellow. They walked closer and already saw that there was gold ahead. I wonder if this is really the gold we are looking for. This is that gold mine, Jean asked himself, or is it an illusion and deception? One could expect anything here. Master Lu tried to help everyone. He held a special device on his hand. This is a flight compass I made, my personal development. It is specifically designed to detect special energy, the old man said. The old man stopped. He looked carefully at his compass. Friends, judging by my current readings, everything inside the mine is normal. So we boldly continue moving, the old man said. At that moment, Jean felt something. He raised his hand up and said, Stop. Stop quickly, everyone, Jean ordered. He began to listen carefully. Is there something wrong? Did you feel something? Speak, the girl asked Jean. Everyone just stood there and was silent. Only one guy looked around. Something has infiltrated our group, Jean said. Everyone was shocked by this result of events. Stop doing that. Stop scaring everyone. This simply cannot be. My compass is silent and does not respond. The old man said to Jean, I didn't want to scare anyone at all. I say what I feel, Jean said, and my instinct has never let me down. Jean, tell me at least what happened, the girl said. Girl, can't you see that Master was just scared? He's probably afraid of the dark, and that's why he's afraid to go further. The blonde woman laughed and said, I watched everyone without taking my eyes off. How could a stranger be among us? The girl asked. My little sweet girl, I told you before that they are charlatans. They just decided to deceive you and your family, people who don't know how to do anything, but can speak beautifully. I told you, but you didn't believe me, the woman said. The old man became very indignant. He pointed his finger at Juan. Don't compare me to this young guy. He is still too young and inexperienced, Master Liu said. Here I am, a genius of technology and cultivation. Jane told everyone in his usual calm voice, Gentlemen, when we entered the mine, how many of us were there? Who will remember? Come on, be bold, what are your options? When we entered the mine, there were exactly 10 of us, said the man with glasses. Wonderful. Among us there is the most attentive. Now let's all count together how many of us there are now, Jean said. Everyone who entered the mine lined up almost in a circle, so that they could be easily counted. They began to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and so on until 10. And then the count reached 11. Everyone fell silent and froze. Now it was really a little creepy and incomprehensible. Almost everyone had sweat on their foreheads from fear. One of the people in the black suit said, "How is this possible? In fact, only 10 of us came here. It turns out that there are more of us." "I don't understand what's going on at all," the girl said. "What is the answer to this riddle?" "Jean, don't be silent. Say something." The girl asked me to answer. "The answer is very simple. Among us, there is a non-human," Jean said calmly. Everyone immediately fell silent and froze. There was a lot of tension and excitement around. The old man became very nervous and worried. His hand shook and he dropped his magical compass. He hit a stone, so sparks flew in different directions. Everyone was very nervous and sweaty. Someone from the crowd asked a question, "Who is it?" Then someone shouted, "Everyone to stand and not move." Everyone became even more scared. "We'll find out now," the girl said. She stepped aside and began giving commands. There was an urgent need to do something. She gave a command to one of her guards. "Go, approach everyone, look into his face and call his name." "Obeying, my lady," the guard said. He began to peer at people. He called everyone by name. Sojan, Layson, Lucy, Shan Van Liu, also Wang Liu. There was a pause. The guard put his finger in front of him and froze. Sweat appeared on my face. It was clear that he was very scared. At that moment, Jean realized that there was an extra one among them. Clearly 2 identical people, but one of them is not human. The main thing is that nothing bad happens, Jean thought. Madam, you won't believe there are 2 Wang Liu here." Out of fear, the guard screamed very loudly, his mouth open. He was so scared that he cried from fear. Jean and the girl looked at these 2 young people. Indeed, they were like 2 peas in a pod. It was as if the twins were standing in front of them. "Tell me quickly, which one of you is a traitor? It's better to tell you right away and confess, otherwise you will experience my power for yourself," the old man said loudly and decisively. They really looked alike, like twin brothers. One of them shouted, "Madam, it's me. I'm real, believe me." The second one immediately shouted, "No, this is the real me. Don't trust him." Jane and the girl were confused. "And how can we now understand which of them is right? How can you tell which one is real? Who is human and who is not human?" the girl said. At this moment, Master Liu remembered his compass. He felt that at this moment he had to help him. The compass immediately began to glow with a golden light. It was clear that the old man began to use his superpower. "Gentlemen, 1 second," the old man shouted loudly. And at that moment Master Liu began to twist his finger around the axis. With every movement he made, a golden ring appeared around him. There were a large number of such rings. It was like a golden tornado was spinning around his finger. He channeled this golden energy into the young people. These circles hovered over their heads and began to shine brightly. 2 young guys, absolutely similar to each other, were simply covering their faces from the bright light with their hands. Nothing more supernatural happened. "This is all very strange," Master Liu said. The old man immediately became thoughtful and began to scratch his beard. He hoped his magic would help. "Eternal problems with these old people," the blonde woman said. "The charlatan would sit at home in retirement and would not interfere here." The woman approached the old man. The blonde woman cast a spell. She began waving her arms, and a violet energy field formed around her. Lots of lightning flashed around her. "Let's kill 2, and then we will definitely get rid of the imposter 100%. In the same tone, the blonde woman said. The young people looked alike and screamed in fear. "What you are doing is not necessary. Madam, we have always been faithful to you." A girl intervened in this situation. She decided to protect these young people from death. She stood in front of them and thereby prevented the blonde woman from doing her dirty deed. "Stop it, I said," the girl shouted. "Where did you forget? If you forgot, Then I will remind you. He's from my family, so I'll deal with them myself. The girl shouted loudly at the blonde. She turned a little towards Jian. Master, what do you say? Jian, do you have a solution to this problem? All hope is in you, the girl said. Jane looked at these two people very carefully. Indeed, it was impossible to distinguish them from each other. But Jean already knew the truth. The one on the left is not real. Jean said, This is slander. Yes, how can he even know? He is still too young to draw such conclusions. You can't just take a life and a chance like that. One of them was indignant. I have worked hard and conscientiously for the benefit of the Huangfu family for over 10 years. He said, How can I be unreal now? There was fear in his eyes. He screamed in horror and tears of despair flowed from his eyes. Yes, it's true, said one of them. Everyone who was in the steel mine is much broader. They were dispersed throughout the mine. Nobody knew what would happen now. At that moment, Jean used his super strength in a split second. He turned on the ultrasound. This sound was supposed to reveal which of them was real and which was not. There was a loud roar, and one of these young people began to turn into a vampire. No one even understood what happened and where the sound came from. People asked each other what was going on. Who did it? You took and ruined my plan, the man told me. For this, I will kill you. He began to accelerate and run towards Jean. For this, I will suck all your blood. He screamed, not a man. He accelerated, pushed off the ground, put his hand forward, and flew in the direction of Jean. Just in an instant, Jean quickly hit this non-man in the face. He used lightning energy. The blow turned out to be very powerful. The force of the blow sent this non-person spinning in the air. It flew and rotated around its axis, and yellow lightning flew after him and finished him off. A few meters later, a non-person fell to the ground. For some time he lay and did not move. None of those present dared to approach him and check if he was alive. Several minutes passed, and the man opened his mouth. Smoke began to come out of his mouth and eyes. Now it was clear that he was killed, and it was the end for him. It seemed to me that it was just a small ghost, not even worth mentioning. His strength is too weak. I didn't even bother to find it. It's just little things, the old man said in his defense. Everyone who was in the mine became closer to each other. The girl began to give commands. Everyone understood that now there was no time for jokes. So I command everyone to remain vigilant and move forward, the girl said. Madam, we have arrived, said someone from the crowd. Ahead it was clear that the mine was turning into a tunnel. There were stairs and pipes along the edges. One person forbade it. Ahead is a haunted place. He clearly had terrible fear. He pointed his finger forward where there was a large, long tunnel. Friends, calm down and don't worry so much. With me, all these evil spirits and monsters will be suppressed, the old man said. He closed his eyes and held his magical compass in his hand. Jane thought and began to reason. It really was a place of intense hostility. In the realm, stupid creatures are more significant here than I expected. They even set up a formation in this place. What ghosts? What are you talking about? When I start to act, they will all run away in different directions. It's safe here now. Trust me. The old man spoke confidently. Jane didn't like it. Old man, believe me, you better step aside. Otherwise you may provoke a taboo and cause the appearance of ferocious creatures. There is no need to put everyone in danger, Jean said. Don't be stupid, boy. The old man began to argue. I've already checked this place, and there's nothing here. And if there was something here, it is long gone. What the hell is going on here? What is this? The old man screamed loudly in fear. Something incomprehensible black appeared in front of them. It seemed to be a paw with claws of a large animal. This paw quickly grabbed the old man and squeezed it into its fist. The old man simply screamed in pain and fear. Everyone remained in their places. Nobody knew what to do with him. What it is? The blonde woman screamed loudly in fear. This is a ghost, John answered calmly. Everyone who was in the mine was very scared. One guy suddenly shouted sharply, "Yes, that's them." They began to appear again. "Look there," the boy screamed loudly in fear. It was as if long black arms with fingers began to stretch into the middle of the mine. There were a very large number of them, so many that no one could count any more. The demons began to attack everyone who was in this mine. With their hands, their paws and claws, they grabbed the one they could only reach. A large black paw with claws was approaching the Jean's head. The claws of this paw were clearly covered in blood. Cries for help were heard throughout the mine. Jean concentrated very quickly. He turned on his superpower. Around him, the energy field began to form a kind of protective dome. "Well, let's see who wins," Jean said. A long black paw with claws reached out to grab Jean. But Jean simply raised his hand up, and the entire energy field, all his lightning, went towards this black demon. But a moment later, in front of Jean, there was no longer one black paw of a demon, but 6 paws at once. They all reached out to grab him and tear him apart. Jean was not at all afraid. He felt great about his strength and what he was capable of. He was in good physical shape. Jean was in complete control of the situation. "Why did you decide, demon, to run away from me? Then I'm behind you," Jean shouted loudly. He added even more blue and white energy. The energy blast wave was so powerful that the mine shook. Jean stopped and directed all the energy power of his superpower towards the fleeing demon. The lightning energy flew forward with all its might. Jean pushed his foot onto the ground with all his might. He thereby gave even more speed and strength to the energy that went towards the demon. Jean jumped and landed on one knee. Bright yellow sparks flew in different directions. After he landed, the blast wave from this was very powerful. There was practically nothing visible in the mine. Jean stopped and froze. He decided to look around what was happening around him. See where people are. It was necessary to assess the situation around. The smoke and fog cleared. Jean looked around and saw scattered boards and wood. He looked closer, and it turned out to be coffins. There were a very large number of them. "This is a special place," said Jean. A blonde woman began to crawl out of the coffin. It was wrinkled and covered in dust. She coughed loudly because she had inhaled smoke. The white-haired woman looked around her. What actually happened? Where are we? Why are there coffins around? A woman asked questions. The frightened guards also began to crawl out of their coffins. What's going on here? Why are we in coffins? Was there so much fear on your face? Sweat appeared on their faces from the horror that had happened to them. There are definitely ghosts here. How do we get out of here now? One of the people said. Where is Mr. Liu? The second person asked. Who saw Mr. Liu? Mr. Lowell, where are you? This man shouted loudly. Everyone in the mine looked in different directions. Each of them was looking for Mr. Liu. Everyone looked around and watched carefully. The girl asked, Is he really here? Jane calmly put his hands in his pockets and looked into the distance. There's an old zombie over there, John said confidently. Jane jumped onto one of the coffins that was lying on the ground. He began to loudly stomp the tires of the coffin. Whatever you are, quickly release Mr. Liu. I order you. Jean spoke loudly. What is that terrible urine smell? People said. Master Liu, you got scared and wet yourself. People began to laugh at the old man. There was indeed a large wet spot on the old man's clothes. This is all slander. Shut your mouths, children. The old man was indignant. As an immortal, I specially cultivated my virgin matcha to simply resist evil spirits. I did this all on purpose. He made excuses, old man. Jane prepared to leave. He already began to take his first steps, but the girl stopped him. Woman, what are you doing? I didn't understand where you were going. The girl said, Stay where you are and don't move. Don't go anywhere. Better go back to the coffin, Jean said in a calm and confident voice. As soon as I deal with what lies ahead, you can immediately leave this place, Jean said. Boy, do you really think you can solve all the problems here? The old man was indignant. I'm not going to belittle your merits. You're just too young. This place is very mysterious. You better stay close to me. This way you will have a better chance of surviving, said the old man, who stank very much. I will never lie in this coffin again, the woman with white hair said loudly. It doesn't matter what kind of spirits or demons there are. I will crush them all in front of an expert. It is your right. Do what you want. I see you are not getting the full essence of the problem. You can't even imagine what could happen to you ahead. I won't try to persuade you, the Jean said calmly and walked away. The guards were scared and very worried. Madam, what should we do now? The guard asked the girl. They all understood that only Jean could give them security. Madam Huang Fu, Since we have found ourselves in this troubled place, why don't we get to the root of the problem itself? The old man began to reason and talk. If we all listen to this boy, Jean, it will most likely turn out that we all came here in vain. We will all return with empty pockets and nothing, Master Liu said. Okay, have you convinced me? Let's go see what's there, the girls said, and they went forward. Everyone really wanted a lot of gold. Suddenly, a large white flash lit up ahead. She was spinning in circles, and these flashes were sharp like a chainsaw. Then a large head suddenly appeared. They were black with big thick hair. There were no eyes visible, though the mouth was open. Do you know where you are? The head asked. This is hell. Welcome? The head continued talking. Jane stopped abruptly. He heard everything the head said. Next, the most interesting things await you. Next, you will find various forms of death. How do you like this? The head continued to talk. Enough! The Gene shouted loudly. Gene stood up and was ready to fight the demon. He began to connect his energy and superpower. A few waves of his hand, and now a blue electric field was spinning around Jean. Blue field. This was his signature super strength and magic. She has never let him down yet. With one movement, Jean directed lightning into the black spot from which the voice came. Not even a few seconds had passed before a body fell in front of his feet. It was a terrible demon with a gray face. Jean remained in place and did not approach him. Suddenly the body began to come to life. The demon opened his mouth wide with his white teeth. His eyes glowed red. How did you find me? The demon shouted indignantly. A little demon cultivator, Jean said. A little demonic energy is not worth your mention. Jean continued speaking. Jean directed all his energy towards this demon. The forces of energy waves lifted this demon upward. He hovered in the air. The demon was deprived of any movement. This is hell, the demon screamed. You dared to kill the messenger of hell. Your sins are unforgivable. This demon shouted loudly towards Jean. Yes, John asked. You can assume that I was scared, even if it's not real hell, even if these are the real 9 hells. The Gene continued to speak. I am Master Jean. I will walk on them. I will step over your heads. I will step over your corpses. No one and nothing can stop me, for evil spirits and demons will be defeated by me. Gene spoke. The diamond fell again at Jean's feet. It was clear that he had practically no strength left. He lay on the ground like a sack of shit. The role of the demons of hell will awaken very soon, and we will all become his slaves here. The demon spoke. As an ignoramus, you have no idea that the most painful death awaits you. The demon spoke with all his might. The demonic energy here is of very high quality, thought Jean. It is many times greater than the aura of that ghost cultivator. The one I encountered when I was saving Huang Fu outside, Jean said. Jane sat in the lotus position. He began to meditate. He closed his eyes and placed his hands on his knees. An energy fiery cloud formed around him. People saw a man sitting on a stone. There was fire all around him. People ran towards him. They didn't understand what was happening and wanted to help him. Madam Huang, please look ahead there, said one of the guards. Isn't that the one sitting on the rock, Jean? I'm not mistaken, see for yourself. Everyone approached the gentleman sitting on the stone. What are you doing here? The girl asked. We are looking for you everywhere. And you just sit here on a rock and dream, the girl said. An old man intervened in the conversation. This boy must be too scared. So he simply cannot move. To move forward alone, deliberately waiting for us here. I'm telling the truth, right, Jean? The old man said. Jean rose from the rock he was sitting on. Try your luck again and turn back the way you came here, Jean said. Maybe the monsters here are weaker, but he can't cope with them. I can't talk to you anymore. The old man was indignant. Miss Huang, this guy is not solving the problem at all. He will continue. He continues to insist on your return. Your Huang family may have paid him for this, the old man said. Come on. If there really are zombies or monsters out there, I want to see how strong they are, or how much stronger my gun is than them. The blonde said and showed a huge gun. Jean, you must understand. This gold mine is very important to our family, Huang. I definitely have to resolve this issue so that this doesn't happen to me, the girl said. I definitely have to go and find out what's going on, she continued. We suddenly heard a terrible, scary voice. Welcome to hell. Now you can enjoy different ways of dying." The voice continued to speak. Everyone stopped very suddenly and froze. "Whose voice is this? Who is speaking?" Master Lu asked. "First of all, you all need to stay where you are. Talking is prohibited. Those who disobey my order will go to tongue-pulling hell." A terrible, scary voice spoke. "Miss, what is this?" one of the guards asked. In an instant, thick red dark blood flowed from the guard's mouth. He began to cough, choke and choke. I held his chest with one hand. He couldn't breathe. Black and white smoke began to swirl around the guard. The guard tried to open his mouth wider, to take in as much air as possible. He couldn't do it, and he was suffocating. Nobody understood what was happening. The girl watched all this action and could do nothing to help her guard. The guard was lying on the ground, writhing in pain. He held his face. Dark, thick blood was coming from the mouth. He was choking on his own blood. It was a very terrible sight. The worst part was that everyone was helpless in this situation. Nobody knew and could help him. The girl covered her face with her hand in horror. Jean watched, he thought, and made conclusions. This time they are acting very cunningly. Jean narrowed his eyes and looked around. They didn't even reveal themselves. Jean said quietly, "After some time, the mountains became completely covered in red. It looked like a red sandstorm was covering all the mountains. People practically could not breathe. It was very difficult and scary. All talk. Now you can talk and move. Quickly, everyone kneel in front of the front." The voice said very menacingly, "Those who obey will immediately go to the hell of the Knife Mountain." People raised their heads up and tried to see who was telling them this. Fear filled their body. One boy was more scared than anyone. He was the first to kneel before that terrible voice. He began to completely obey what he was told. The girl saw this and didn't know how to react. The girl was very scared and confused. "Master Lu, what should we do now?" "I'm waiting for your answer." In response, the master simply scratched his beard with his hand and thought, "I wonder what kind of sinister creatures they are. Dare to force members of my family to kneel?" The man asked loudly. He had a determined look. A protective suit began to appear on his body. Just a few seconds later, the man was fully dressed in his mechanical protective suit. It consisted of a super strong metal alloy. "Have the courage to come out and face me," the man said loudly. "Come out quickly, you coward, fight me, or I will incinerate you right now." The man raised his hand up, opened his palm, and fire already appeared inside it. Suddenly, there was a big explosion. Everything around turned red. Pieces of various metals flew to the sides. Many different metal shards pierced the man's mechanical suit. These sharp metal fragments bent him right through. They stuck out everywhere in my chest, arms, legs. "What it is?" the man shouted loudly. A woman with white hair looked sadly at her wounded husband. "I wonder what alloy these swords are made of. After all, our armor has always been considered the best." The woman spoke. She grabbed her heart in frustration. The woman watched her husband lie on the ground. The entire suit was pierced through and through by these sharpest swords. The man in the mechanical suit didn't move. Out of fear, out of panic, and out of hopelessness, people began to kneel down. They took turns fulfilling the demands uttered by the creepy voice. It was very scary. All the guards knelt down. Only Jean was left standing in the middle. Also the old man, the girl, and the blonde woman did not fall to their knees. The man in the iron-red suit was still lying on the ground and not moving. "Ms. Huangfu, we have no idea what we're dealing with. We don't know what it is." "Doomed," said the old man. The girl was disappointed and heartbroken. It didn't seem like she had lost. The old man, without thinking for a long time, sank to his knees. "And now let's get on our knees for now. Let's fulfill their request." "Don't be stupid, lady. Get on your knees." The old man continued to talk. "Boy, don't get over your head. By doing what your elders tell you," the old man said and looked towards the Jean. "Can't you see that even immortal Chang has knelt down? I don't see any point in resisting anymore." The old man spoke. "Jean, there's really something strange going on here. Better to be careful." The girl spoke to John in fright. The girl looked at John and knelt down. "Calm down. They're just a bunch of nobodies who simply cannot make it to the big stage." Jean spoke confidently. Jean constantly looked around and assessed the situation around him. Everything around was painted red. Sharp pieces of metal were sticking out of the ground. Then these sharp pieces of metal flew straight towards the man. They truly resembled the largest sharp sword. There were a very large number of them flying. The largest piece of metal flew straight at Jean's head. There were a few seconds left for this metal to stick right into his head. Jean froze at that moment. Jean concentrated and quickly grabbed a piece of this metal with 2 fingers. He held it tightly between his fingers. And then Jean threw this piece of metal forward with all his strength with 2 fingers. With his energy and super strength, he added flight speed to this piece of metal. A sharp piece of metal flew with all its might. It cut the air and pierced space. It seemed like a fiery comet was flying. Jean put one of his hands in his pocket and calmly watched what was happening. "What an absurdity! For you I am hell," Jean said loudly. Everyone else was on their knees at that moment. "What should we do?" the guards began to ask. "I only know one thing for sure. This guy is doomed now. He cannot be saved 100%. The old man said confidently. The loud voice came from outside again. "Everyone go to the pit hall, which is in front. Those who disobey will go to the pressed stone hell. For now, we can only move forward." "Went," the woman said. Jean continued to walk forward at this time. He explored everything around him. He wanted to find this root of evil. He moved forward and was not afraid of anything. Soon Jean stopped in front of the large steps. Ahead of him, he saw a large red palace. There was a huge gate there. "Very interesting," said Jean. "Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I already want to see what happens next," Jean thought to himself. "I love beautiful surprises." "Once again," said Jean. Master John began to climb the large and long steps. It seemed as if these steps would never end. Finally, Jean rose up. He stood on the threshold of this castle. There was a lot of red light inside. It looked really nice, fascinating even. Jean looked ahead carefully. Ahead he saw the red light disappear. It's getting dark ahead. He saw a small rise, like a stage with steps. At the top, 2 torches burned with blue fire. Also was a burning circle with strange symbols. Jean thought that there was no point in waiting, and that we should move forward. We need to check what lies ahead. He couldn't wait to find out the truth. He saw a glowing circle. 2 hieroglyphs glowed inside it. Pit hall. Forever caught in the cycle of rebirth, repent and exchange farewell for your blood. We were very serious. There was no fear at all. "I will give you a chance. Be brave. Go out and meet your death," John said loudly and menacingly. Everyone else had already caught up with Jean. They all lined up behind him and watched what was happening. "Jean, be careful," someone from the crowd said. "Friends, please leave first. I still have urgent matters here." "Seriously," said Jean, "go ahead. I have one more thing to do here. I'll catch up with you later." An old man approached Kojin. He began to teach him life. "Do you realize that you have created big problems for all of us? Was it really that difficult to obey?" The old man spoke. "If you go alone, it will only get worse," said the blonde woman. "I wonder if there is a way out here." The guards began to look at the premises and ask questions. "Look ahead. There's a door ahead there. But I don't know for sure if she can get us out of here," said the woman with white hair. She pointed her finger at the door, near which 2 blue torches were burning. The big doors opened. There was bright white and pink light inside. It was like a tornado swirling this air inside the room. Everyone just stood and looked at Jean. Nobody dared to go. "If you don't leave now, it will be too late," the Jean said and looked at the girl. But in response, she looked at him with very sad eyes. "I'll leave. This place is too creepy." "Listen, Jean, let's go out first," the girl suggested. "If this boy is not afraid, then why are we afraid?" said the woman with white hair. "He probably has the means of immortality. But this is his personal business." "Wong Fu, maybe the door at the top is the exit. If you don't come out now, you'll stay here forever. Hurry up. I feel like the door will close soon. A very strong wind sucks me inside. Hurry up, think you need to go," one of the guards shouted. We did not approach the door, above which a certain symbol glowed with a green light. It was as if 3 bright green eyes were watching them. There was a very bright flash. The hieroglyphs in the magic circle split in half. There was a terrible grinding and crackling sound. "Hooray! The door has opened." They shouted in unison. "There's a bright light inside." They spoke. The light was so bright that it was impossible to look forward. They tried to cover their eyes with their hands so as not to go blind. The bright white light began to disappear little by little. Now it was clearly visible that the doors were indeed open. Looks like we can really leave this place now. The doors are open. You can act. Let's go. A woman with white hair spoke confidently. Some kind of beast appeared from the open door. It was clearly possible to see that he was on 4 legs. He had a tail, and his eyes burned with red fire. "What is this?" everyone asked. Soon they saw how 3 huge striped tigers were already moving towards them. They had big teeth and equally big claws. Spikes ran down the back. I wonder where the tiger comes from here. It's just some kind of mysticism. I don't have an explanation for all of this yet. The old man spoke in fear. "This is a grave tiger," John said. "This place really breeds such sinister creatures. Looks like we'll have a good harvest this time. And from the tiger's head, you can make a stuffed animal as a souvenir." Jean smiled. The tiger was simply huge. In height, it was not inferior to human height. The tail was long and thick like a sea rope. The tiger looked at people appraisingly. Some people began to panic. One of the young men screamed and began to quickly wave his arms. "Help! Someone help me! I want to get out of here faster!" He screamed loudly in panic. He ran to the door and began banging on it loudly with his fists. It was a real hysteria from fear. "Open the doors, I don't want to stay here for a minute. Help!" the young man shouted. The tigers saw the movement and followed the noise of this man. Their eyes were burning. It was clear that they were out hunting. The tigers slowly crept up and then jumped on their prey. Suddenly, one tiger jumped straight at this man, who was knocking on the door with his fists. He jumped straight onto his back with his paws and claws. Everyone around him quickly became frightened because he was screaming terribly. The tiger overpowered the guard and pressed him firmly to the ground with its paws. He growled and snorted at him. Salinas dripped from its mouth directly onto his head. The claws dug very deep into the boy's body. The tiger completely took over the body of this guard. With his teeth, he began to tear it into pieces. Blood flew in all directions. Soon the hand flew away from the body. She was bloodied. The young man no longer screamed or moaned. It was clear that he was finished. Everyone was very scared. "Jane, can we really not get out?" the girl asked him. "Yes, it is. I told you to leave, but you didn't listen," Jean said angrily. "Jane, now we have 2 options." The girl began to speak. But suddenly a voice from outside interrupted her. He began to speak loudly. "Yes, now you have 2 options. One is to die. The second is to vote for the one who will die in your place," said a voice from outside. People began to panic and discuss what to do. They did not find an exact definitive answer. They started arguing. "It's up to you," said the woman with white hair. The old man was so scared that he just stood there and was silent. The voice from outside continued to speak. "You only have 10 seconds to think and make a decision. If you don't make a choice in 10 seconds, you all die." "Sorry, what should we do?" the girl asked. "Just kill them," Jean replied. "Some really strange things are happening here. We don't even know what it is, and none of us have ever encountered it." The old man spoke. "Even the elder brother is powerless. How then do we get out of here?" Tigers were ready to attack people and tear them to pieces. They growled and snorted loudly. They wanted meat and blood. The voice from outside continued to speak. "You only have 3 seconds left. The tigers were already ready to attack the people and tear them to pieces, so, I think. 3, 2, the woman with white hair raised her hand up. "I suggest voting. Let's vote immediately, otherwise we'll just all die here. So we have at least some chance. Don't you understand that the situation has developed this way? That there is simply no other way to survive here? There is no other way to survive. We need to vote." "Very good. I appreciate your self-awareness," said a voice from outside. "Now the 4 of you can vote on which of you should die first." The voice continued to speak. Jean had no intention of voting at all. He looked at the people who were starting to panic. He had a clear plan. He had not been afraid of anything in this life for a long time. "You now have 3 minutes to make a decision," said a voice from outside. The girl was scared. The voice from outside continued to speak. "The one who will be chosen the most. Or if there is no consensus, then everyone will die." "Doesn't that make us kill each other?" the girl asked loudly. "Only one conclusion follows from this. In order to be safe, one of us must sacrifice himself, the old man said. He looked at the others and thought about who to choose, although he himself was more scared than anyone. Baby, I don't want to upset you, but you have the lowest status here, the old man said. Besides, this is all because of you. It was you who attracted the attention of this terrible creature. So you should be the first to die, the old man said, looking into the Jin's eyes. Initially, you couldn't get out of here alive. He continued talking. After your death, I will personally perform my signature ritual to help your soul find peace. The old man spoke. Jin, without thinking for a long time, with all his strength, hit his hand in the old man's face. The old man just annoyed him with his statements. He constantly crossed the line of what was accessible. The blow was so strong that his face twisted to the side. The old man fell with his whole body to the ground with a great roar. The old man even lost consciousness from the blow. He lay there, didn't move, and didn't even seem to breathe. After some time, the old man recovered from this strong blow. He sat and looked at John. "You hit me, you scoundrel." You raised your hand to the old man. The old man was indignant and held his head. "Old man, didn't you suggest voting? You don't care about anyone. The main thing for you is to save your life and your ass." "My voice just goes to you," John said. "For me? Will you vote for me?" the old man asked again. He was very scared. "Madam Bai, Mrs. Huang Fu, how is it that he votes against me? This guy doesn't know who he is. He's just a crazy boy, impudent and ill-mannered. He needs to learn some manners. Let's all vote for Jean together. Let him die both tables," the old man suggested. Turned on with white hair, she boldly raised her hand up. "I don't know what everyone else thinks, but I made a decision. I vote for Master Liu," the woman said loudly. "Why, how is this so?" The old man was very indignant. His face turned red from fear and anxiety. The mouth was twisted to the side. The beard began to shake with fear. "Compared to this old deceiver, I would rather trust this young man, rather than just die here, listening to old grandfather's tales," said the woman with white hair. Rick was very upset to hear all this. "Lady Huang Fu, listen to me. If you also vote for Jian, well then we will have a draw. It turns out 2 votes against 2 votes. We'll have a chance. You will be able to vote again," the old man said. The voice from outside began to speak again. "You have 5 seconds left to make your choice." He began counting down. 5, 4, 3. The old man was very nervous and angry at that moment. "Madam Huang Fu, vote for Jane, I beg you," the old man spoke. Was the girl serious? "Sorry, Master Liu. I trust Jane more, therefore my voice goes to you. I vote for you," the girl said. "This is all over." Upset and grief-stricken, the old man sat down on the ground. The situation was tense to the limit. Nobody knew what would happen next. "The voting results have been decided. The one who drops out can go die," a voice from outside said loudly. The old man simply changed his face. His face became long with fear. The beard became more expensive, and the skin of the face darkened. The old man sat down on the ground again, out of fear. Behind him, a huge tiger was already approaching him. He ran at him at breakneck speed to tear him to pieces. The tiger jumped on the old man and began to tear him with his claws and teeth. "No, not this. Help someone, help me," the old man shouted. Everyone stood aside and did not move. "This is very good. Your obedience is the guarantee of your life." The voice from outside began to speak again. There were 3 people left, 2 women and 1 man. "One man dared to offend me." Jean stood and listened to all this nonsense. "I suggest you women kill this man, and then you are free," said a voice from outside. "If you decide to disobey my order, then you will all die. I think you already understand that I'm not joking." The voice from outside continued to speak. The women were very scared. "What?" one of them shouted. "I don't like this idea." She put out her hand and began to see how her body began to be covered with a mechanical suit. A protective, armored suit began to be put on her body. Literally moments later, a woman with white hair was already standing, dressed in her mechanical protective suit. It was also made from a durable metal alloy. She held her big gun in her hand. "Beiting Ching, what are you doing?" the girl screamed loudly. "Wait, we'll think of something. Stop it, you might die." The woman, the protector of the suit, decided to kill Jean. to do what he said. There is a voice from the outside. I can't handle being here. I can survive. I can only kill Jean. There is only one way out, said the woman with white hair. Beijing Ching, don't you understand the simple truth? The girl began to speak. The creatures here are just teasing us. They just watch us kill each other and suffer. They enjoy it. Believe me, he will not spare any of us. But the woman with white hair could no longer be convinced. Listen to me, girl. If you and I don't kill Jean, we'll all die. By killing him, we will either remain alive or at least gain time for ourselves. You have exactly 10 seconds to think. You must make decisions quickly. I'm starting the countdown. 10, 9, 8, 7. A voice spoke from outside. Are you done? Jean asked loudly. At this moment, the large cannon was already pointed directly at his head. Jean turned on his energy field, which protected him like an impenetrable dome. He turned around and walked towards the door, from which the green light was shining. The woman in the mechanical suit continued to shout something after him. The voice from outside continued its countdown. Stop, I said. I didn't let you leave. Are you such an idiot, and aren't you afraid of anything? It's over. Stop and I'll kill you. A woman in a mechanical suit screamed. She pointed her laser cannon toward Jean. Very quickly, with one hand, Jean grabbed the cannon right by the edge of the barrel. The laser stopped flying out of the gun's muzzle. But the situation was too tense. Jean squeezed the cannon very tightly with one hand. He squeezed her with all his might. The mechanical suit began to sparkle and become covered in fire. A moment later, it was clear that Jean simply broke this gun with his hand. Shards of metal fell and flew in different directions. The woman with white hair no longer had a weapon. What have you done? The woman screamed in disappointment. This was her last chance. Now she had no weapon, and she was powerless. The mechanical suit began to lose its power. Jean was serious. His eyes burned with red and yellow fire. Just leave while you can, Jean said. Are you serious? The woman asked. You're either a complete idiot or really that brave, she said. There was hope in her eyes, hope for salvation. Jean walked towards the large steps towards the green doors. It was a gold mine, in which something unknown was still happening. Boy, how dare you challenge me? A voice asked loudly from outside. I don't see you, I only hear you. Believe me, I will find you, Jean said. He turned on his firepower. The power of fire and the power of lightning were in his hand. Grave tigers, kill him, a voice from outside said loudly. The tigers looked towards where John stood. They immediately began to growl and opened their mouths. Tigers. The tigers slowly approached Jean. He was backed into a corner. On the one hand, rabid grave tigers. On the other hand, the wall. Jean tried to control the situation. Jean, be careful. Be more careful, please. Take care of yourself, Jean. The girl was very worried and screamed. Her eyes were scared, but the hope of survival did not leave her. One of the tigers was the first to attack Jean. He put his paws forward, which had rounded, sharp claws. This grave tiger roared with all his might. There were flames around his body. Jean quickly closed the mouth of this grave tiger with one of his right hands. He grabbed him by the nose and beard and covered his mouth with one hand. Tiger didn't expect this at all. Then Jana released his hand and directed all the energy, electric and magical rays, directly into the head of the grave tiger. There were continuous fiery flashes all around. Very soon the tiger fell to the ground. The blanket lay there, practically not breathing. An electric current ran through his body. The eyes were yellow. The mouth was open. Simply delighted. What a huge force. Can people really have such power on Earth? The woman with white hair spoke. We were still in our mechanical protective suit. One tiger was neutralized, but the other two tigers simultaneously jumped straight at Jean. Their eyes burned with yellow fire, and in general, it seemed that they were all composed entirely of fire. Jean was already ready to repel this attack. He defended his left-hand side. He gathered all the magical power and energy into his palms. The laser beams were already ready to pierce the tigers, and so Jean put his hand forward and sent all the energy, all the power of lightning into two tigers. The entire mine was blinded by yellow and gold light. The ground shook underfoot. Two tigers fell behind him. They lay on the ground and did not move. It was clear that all tigers had come to an end. John walked slowly towards the green doors. He came close to the steps. Jean saw a black dark hole. There was a round energy field around her. I underestimated you. You killed all my grave tigers. Now you can't even hope that you'll get out of here, said a voice from outside. Just hide and that's it, Jean said calmly. He walked up to the door and began to feel with his hands the hieroglyphs, which glowed with a beautiful, bright light. The stone door here is made of a special stone. You won't be able to break it. The voice from outside began to speak again. John didn't care about this talk. He carefully examined the hieroglyphs and the door itself. Thieper versieks tenerturia. Ox teres, austeres, fruvi for sikufais, the perfer zidi, boer. Detective mechanical suit began to disappear from the bodies of women with white hair. Any more, and she would have been completely out of costume. The woman in the protective suit said, "While we don't have a protective suit yet, step aside and let me try to kill these monsters. Or let's kill them together. We should succeed." The woman pulled out another laser gun. She channeled all her power. Laser on this door. A very bright flash appeared throughout the entire gold mine. Dedes terus qui feinde croix, aka. Morganif, spaus, fringsrau de farakis paisel no. I counter truster tao. Powerful energy laser hits the lock of this door. There was a very loud crash. The woman tried her best. Then she decided to shoot at the door. With the final most powerful charge, she fired this laser shot. It was the brightest flash Jean had ever seen. There was a very loud explosion. When the smoke cleared, the women and Jean saw that nothing had happened. The door stood still. She was resistant to fire, laser cannon, and explosions. What? How is this possible? There's not even a scratch on that damn door. Disappointed, the woman said, "I just don't know what to do now." This was the hope of salvation. The woman in the mechanical armored suit hung her head down in disappointment. The battle seemed lost. "Are we really going to be trapped and all die here?" the woman said. Jean at this time gathered all his strength into a fist. He put energy there, biofield electricity, and magic. Jean prepared to strike the strongest blow. With his fiery fist, he hit that stone door with all his might. There was a loud crash. There was a bright flash and explosion. Sparks and lightning flew in different directions. The woman with white hair was very surprised. He broke the stone door with one blow. His punch is 100 times more powerful than my mechanical laser cannon. How is this possible? I wonder if he's even human. The stone door was indeed broken. Instead, there was now a large passage forward. A pale green light glowed in the depths. "Please, no one enters. Everyone stays here and waits for me. I hope you will now listen to what I tell you," Jean said. Jean walked forward and walked through the broken door. So far he hasn't seen anything strange. It was quiet and calm. This worried him most of all. Jean stopped abruptly. It was as if he had seen a ghost. The young man's face changed. He furrowed his brows. His determination was visible in his eyes. "Well done, boy. You have come too far, and successfully passed all my tests," said the unknown old man, who was sitting in front of the Jean. There was a lot of energy behind his head. She glowed with pink color. "In fact, I'm an immortal here, and everything that happened before was just a test for myself." The old man spoke with his eyes closed. "As a reward for passing the tests, I am ready to take myself as my student. Are you ready to follow me on the path of immortality? Are you ready to strive for eternal life?" the old man asked. "There's one thing I don't understand. What's the point of trying to confuse me with your old cheap tricks now? Since I came here, how can you use such tricks?" "It's just funny and embarrassing," Jean said. The old man's eyes lit up like a demon's. They glowed with red, bright fire. "My demonic aura has no effect on you. Perhaps you are a demon too?" the man asked. "And since you and I are both demons, believe me, I can teach you a lot." The old man continued talking. His eyes still glowed red. His nails were green. "Let's live in this world together, okay? Together, we are force." "No, I do not agree. I have only one option to solve this problem. It's very simple. You'll just die today and that's it," Jean said in a very serious voice. The old demon became very angry. He began to use his strength, magic, and the power of his energy. "If you don't want to, Then I'll just kill you, boy." The old demon screamed in an angry voice. "Come on," Jean shouted loudly. A huge demon appeared behind Jean. He was very strong. The demon had 3 heads, several strong hands, and in almost every hand there was a young sword and spear. The old demon grew green long claws instead of green nails. Visually, the old demon was inferior only in height by several dozen times. Jean simply awakened his demon, which he had not shown to anyone for a very long time. This must be the deadliest fight in the world. 2 demons who compete in their strength. They compete to see who has better superpowers and magic. Only one will remain in this battle. The old demon fell exhausted. He lay and leaned on his hands. He raised his head and looked at Jean. "Who is this?" he asked. "This is your scary aura. So far it looks weak." "Who the hell are you anyway?" asked the old demon. At this moment Jean's patience simply ran out. "I told you to show yourself. What is unclear in my words? You understand that I am not afraid. Now you are convinced that I am stronger than you. Show yourself quickly." The Jean shouted loudly. "No," said the old demon. He began to turn into something green. Half of his body has already become like a certain flower. After a while, the old demon completely turned into a green flower. In the middle of the flower there was a red space with teeth. There was a bright light from there. There was still magic and an energy field around this flower. "This demon is actually a piranha flower. Very funny," Jean said loudly. He looked attentively at everything that was happening. Jean did not like surprises, so he was in complete control of the situation. His eyes glowed and saw every movement of the flower. The piranha flower opened its mouth, where there were numerous sharp teeth. The mouth of this flower really looks like a piranha. The piranha flower wanted to attack Jean and gild him. At this moment Jean was in control. "You overestimate your strength, little flower," Jean said. The young man put his hands in front of him, turned on his energy, and the electric field was already around him. Electric discharges of lightning struck in all directions. Jean sent his 3-headed demon monster to attack this piranha flower. It was no problem. This demon grabbed the flower with a tight fist. He began to choke him. A huge demon monster practically tore this flower out of the ground by the roots. It was immediately obvious that the energy was beginning to leave the flower. "No!" the piranha flower screamed loudly, but it was already too late. A strong and powerful demon with his hand pinched the stem of a piranha flower. The flower opened its mouth with teeth. It was clear that the flower was beginning to suffocate. The demons were very strong and scary. Each chapter of the demon was scary in its own way. Each demon's hand held its own weapon. The most important thing is that the demon had so much power that he could do anything. None of the mortals and immortals had such power. The demon threw the piranha flower aside with all his might. Then the flower hit the stones. The piranha flower began to make strange sounds. His mouth with teeth was open. Jane continued. He didn't even intend to turn off his biofield and energy. Therefore, the demon who was next to him also stood and was ready to repel another attack. Jane sat in the lotus position, hands melted to the sides. He lifted his chin up. "We need to absorb his demonic energy," Jean said calmly. He sat and meditated. The demon guarded his peace. A strange white liquid began to flow out of the piranha flower's mouth, but most importantly, light smoke began to emerge from the body of this flower. The way is straight to the young man's body. This is demonic energy. Jean continued to sit in the lotus position. He crossed his palms near his chest. A glowing circle formed around him. All the energy at the moment was right in him. "Eye open," Jean said. A second later, on his head, right in his forehead, an eye began to glow and open. This is yet another super ability that Jean got. The demonic energy of this piranha flower is even greater than I could have imagined. She allowed me to activate the super ability of the magic eye. No one else had this ability. John spoke, and he looked at the fading piranha flower. "In the name of our fellow practitioners of the dark arts, spare my life. I ask you to." The old demon lying on the ground asked for help and begged. Cultivation of the dark arts is the knowledge of the true essence of the universe, the grace to move forward and be freed from worldly limitations. Jean spoke. But it is not at all about tormenting the weak and senselessly killing the innocent. Jean continued speaking. I can only tell you one thing. I'm pretty sure you won't like it. Remember, creatures like you simply discredit the essence of the dark arts, Jean said harshly. An energy charge swirled around his finger and body. Jane waved his finger forward. All the energy, all the lightning that was there, flew towards the demon, an electrical discharge that consisted of many thousands of kilowatts. He swept away and burned everything in his path. Not this, have mercy, the demon shouted. The old demon lay on the ground and watched as all this energy, all the blast wave approached him. He understood that this was the end. Boy, just wait. If you kill me, then someone else will definitely come for you, said Demon. These were his last words. Energy power struck the old demon. It was a powerful explosion. From a short circuit, blue and white flames rose to the very ceiling of the mine. After such a blow, nothing alive could remain. Any magic was powerless. I did not expect that on this earth there are such mysterious and magical creatures as cannibal flowers, Jean said. It seems that the earth is much more mysterious than I thought it was. Jean continued. He put his hands in his pockets and walked away. Behind him, the remains of the demon smoldered and burned out. Experts, mechanical suits, practitioners of the dark arts. The earth is much more interesting than my previous life, Jean said joyfully. Now she was in a very good mood, which should not have deteriorated. Of course, everything had to be shared faster. Jan has been inside this cave for too long, said the woman with white hair. Is he still alive? You just have to believe in it, the girl said. For example, I believe, if a Jean dared to enter, it means he is confident in himself, the girl said. In addition, it is with John that our hope of getting out is connected. We simply have no other option. The girl continued talking. Bai Ching Ching, we must hope for the best. If I had taken the Bai dynasty's strongest sword with me, we would definitely not be trapped here, the woman said. Suddenly, a gentleman began to slowly emerge from the cave. He was fine. There wasn't even a scratch on it. I will say more. Even his clothes were not shabby and clean. It was as if he was just going for a walk or on an excursion. Jane, are you okay? Tell me what is inside, the woman asked. Come on, let's get out of here quickly. Just trust me and don't ask unnecessary questions. Jean and Pavel told the girls on their way out. You ignore me, thinking you're some incredible expert. Don't you know that cultivations are now clouding the mind? The woman in the suit spoke. Jean was silent, and they walked forward. In front lay open wooden coffins. Jean, how do we get out of here? The girl asked. Just follow me and that's it. Trust me. A few minutes later, the three of them went outside. The mine, the darkness, and all the fear that happened there were left behind. The weather outside was simply wonderful. The birds were singing, the sun was shining, and it seemed as if all this hell had never happened. Thank God we got out. But the losses this time were simply heavy. Only the three of us survived. The girl spoke, covering her eyes from the bright light. There was a double feeling, grief and regret, because the rest died, and of course, the joy of being able to escape and survive. Until next time. I'm not going to stay in this place any longer. I'm tired. I have to go. The white-haired woman had once again fully donned her protective mechanical suit. The fire turbines turned on behind her, and she took off at high speed. Jane and the girl simply looked away. A trail of fire and smoke remained behind the flight. A crater appeared on the ground. The girl covered her eyes with her hand under the bright fire. Jane, you have done a great service to our family this time, Huang Fu, the girl said. After I report all this to my grandfather, my family will definitely express their gratitude to you. After some time, Jean found himself near his university, where he once studied. He watched the students sort things out. The guy was catching up with the girl and trying to explain something to her emotionally. And you know what conditions I Liu Wen find myself in. Are you still thinking about it? Asked the guy with glasses. He stopped and held the girl's hand. The girl was unhappy and loudly indignant. Liu Wen, can't you see that I don't like you? Please stop stalking and bothering me. She was nervous and said, Girl, how is this possible? How can you not like me? The guy with glasses was indignant. I'm the best student. I am an academic genius who receives scholarships every year. I'm famous at school. I'm not just a student. I'm a genius. He spoke. Leave me alone already, the girl screamed. I understand you, said boy with glasses. Although this is my first time entering into such a relationship, believe me, as an academic genius, I have rich theoretical knowledge. I know that girls want to save face and hope that others will pursue them. But isn't that what I do? The boy asked. Just consider it done. In the end, the result will be the same. Please be my girlfriend. I gathered my thoughts and courage and said, boy. The girl exhaled very heavily and said, oh my God. Jan was just walking down the street. He enjoyed this wonderful weather and silence. I have never seen anything near shamelessness, even in the immortal realm, where I once was, John thought to himself. They do. The girl turned around and said, John, is that you? There was surprise in her eyes. The girl with red hair stood and simply looked silently at John. The girl came closer to John. John, you just returned, is that true? I asked girl. Yes, it's true, John answered the girl calmly. A boy with glasses stood to the side and was covered in red. His face turned red with anger. He narrowed his eyes. It was clear that he was simply overwhelmed with jealousy. Let me introduce myself. My name is Liu Wen. I'm the academic genius here. Many people know and respect me. Many people take my opinion into account. The boy began to brag. He extended his hand to greet John. Jean looked intently at the boy with glasses. It was a calm, cool look. He kept his hands in his pockets, and the boy extended his hand to say hello and introduce himself. He began to get nervous, and his palm began to sweat. It turned out to be a very awkward situation. The boy with glasses really wanted to meet him, but John didn't care about that. John stood and did not offer him his hand. The academic genius adjusted his glasses on his nose with his hand. Wait, I think I know you, the boy said. You are the one from whom Hu Tianhua stole the girl. Is this so true? I didn't mix anything up. The boy spoke. The girl with red hair got angry. Liu Wen, watch your words, I tell you, although I really don't like people like Hu Tianhua, who use their power to intimidate others. Believe me, it is a fact that the gentleman's bride was stolen, and he couldn't do anything. The boy spoke. Listen to me carefully. Juan doesn't deserve to be John's girlfriend. Trust me, he has plenty of better options. Much better than that bitch. There was a girl with red hair. They are best options. What are you even talking about? The academic genius began to be indignant. An is now famous for having a girl taken away from under his nose, and he, like a sheep, just stood and watched. There was absolutely nothing he could do. I wonder who would keep wanting to be his girlfriend at this school. The boy continued to be indignant. I shouted loudly, Girl! This girl was very infuriated by the words of the academic genius. He just got her. Jean was very surprised. This was too unexpected for him. He did not expect such intimate confessions. What did you say? Repeat. The academic genius shouted loudly. As long as John wants me, I'm his girlfriend. The girl came up and hugged Gina's hand. She began to cling to him as tightly as possible. John looked at her and was surprised. He didn't quite understand what was happening here. And why are you crazy? Do you understand what you are doing? This is just crazy. Let him go quickly. Do not embarrass yourself. He's labeled as a total loser. He is a poor man. What do you see in him? He won't make you happy. The academic genius shouted. What I do doesn't concern you at all. This is my personal matter. Actually, you've been annoying me lately. Better get out of here, the girl said. She began to hug Jean's hand even tighter. Jean will be reasonable and get out of here. You are not worthy for Anne to be yours. Don't ruin her life and destiny. The boy screamed loudly and was indignant. But classmate Anya has already made her choice. All this was useless to her. It was John's classmate. Her name was Anne or Anya. This is the kindest girl who was in his class. She was always on John's side. She always showed her sympathy for him. Let's leave. Let's get out of here, I'm telling you, Jean said to the girl. He remembered that she showed sympathy for him all the time at school. Anya, his classmate, always treated him with respect and kindness. She had the kindest heart. Okay, let's get out of here, Anne said. The two of them turned around and walked away. Only the academic genius remained behind them. a face that was simply torn with anger. He was furious and enraged. Now the girl was being taken away from under his nose. With a slow, calm step, Jean and his classmate Anne. We went for a walk along the street, along the park. It seemed like they had not walked like this for 100 years. It was so quiet and calm. It seemed that just recently all this hell had not happened. A boy with glasses blocked the way for Jana and Anne to walk. "Wait, I told you, stop quickly." The boy wearing glasses shouted angrily. "If you don't give me this girl right now, I just don't know what I'll do with you. You're a weakling, understand?" The boy began to be rude. "Get out of the way, impudent one," Jean said and waved him off with his hand. It turned out to be a very light blow, but even this light blow was enough for the boy with glasses to fall to the ground. "Learn to talk to girls." "My advice to you," Jean said. Jean and his classmate Anne went further down the road. The academic genius lay on his back and looked at their backs. He was angry, but he couldn't do anything. He understood that Jean was much stronger than him. "Freak, I'll get it for you again." He said he was an academic genius. "I, Liu Fentang. I am a member of the generation of learning gods. I have never suffered such humiliation in my life." The boy with glasses spoke. "I will definitely take revenge on you. I will defeat you with any strength and will definitely return my girlfriend on." The academic genius shouted. He was very angry and offended. Jean and his girlfriend, classmate Anya, walked past the schoolyard. "Jean, listen to me. Please be careful with Hu Tianhua. I recently heard that he has returned. I think he will take revenge on you. Or in any case, they will come up with some nasty thing. It's his style." Anya spoke. "You yourself understand that with his character, he will definitely come for you. He will look for you everywhere. He needs to rehabilitate himself in the eyes of Huan and, of course, in front of his many friends." "No problem," said Jean. "If he comes, he will bring trouble upon himself. Everything is in his hands." On the street they met a large crowd of people. It was a small rally. Some slogans were shouted from the middle of the crowd. "Give me a chance, Fur Society. I want to join the Fur Society. I also want to join. Sign me up too. And me." Loud voices were heard. "I order you all to quickly line up," the young man said. Behind him stood a large, huge robot. It was clearly someone in a mechanical suit. "Our Fur Society today recruits only the best. I would even say the best of the best. We also recruit the richest students, the strongest and most beautiful of this school." The young man spoke very confidently, crossing his arms over his chest. Classmate Anya turned to Jean. "Jean, Fur Society, this is the hottest club in school. I tell you this without a doubt. Everyone wants to join this club, but unfortunately, they only take a select few, or those who were paid for, and I'll tell you a secret, they pay a lot of money for this club. After all, who doesn't want to be in a club? Only a fool. Who doesn't aspire to wear furs and become an expert? Everyone wants this too. It's prestigious," classmate Anya said. "And now the most important thing. The whole problem is that the Fur Society only recruits those who have a lot of money. The rest simply doesn't interest them." At that moment, there was a table near the school with two people sitting at it. They were dressed in red oriental clothes. These were the people who were responsible for recruiting the martial arts club. They roasted in this scorching sun, and not a single person approached them. "President of the Baofu Martial Arts Club. I heard that Hu Tianhui, who is the vice president of the Fur Society. Everyone flocks to the Manhwa Society, but no one pays attention to our notorious martial arts club. It's just a disaster." The club president spoke very disappointedly. "Vice president of the martial arts club, Ding Meigui. Yes, this is really a problem. This is the problem of our generation. Tell me, who studies martial arts these days? Almost no one. It has become completely unfashionable. With the advent of mechs and superpowers, traditional martial arts fell into decline." He spoke. "What are we doing here in this sun? We'll just fry now." And not a single person approached us all day. The solution is that the martial arts club will not be able to recruit enough members. We will simply lose the status of the club. This is a strong blow to our reputation. "I agree with you. If we don't succeed, then I have a plan. I'm telling you, if all else fails, then I will seduce one guy to join our club. You understand that the martial arts club should not be dissolved. We can't close, no matter what. Seduction is, of course, a good idea, an interesting one, but this seems like a joke to me. Let's just forget about it. It's just that my attempts to seduce girls may just scare people away. For me personally, this is a bad idea. The next day came. The summer weather was simply wonderful. The bright blue sky with white clouds was simply mesmerizing. There was practically no wind. Our events took place on the school grounds. In fact, it was practically a piece of paradise because everything was so well taken care of. Gene and his friend, classmate Anya, were walking down the street. They reached the schoolyard. They had already been walking together for several days. It seemed like they were just trying to catch up. They began to approach the table where the guys who were recruiting people for the martial arts school were sitting. They were contacted immediately. "Hello, handsome. Hello, miss. Tell me, please, would you like to join a martial arts club? I'll say right away that this is a legendary martial arts club. These leaflets are the beginning. Take these leaflets, read our information. Here are the answers to all your questions at once." The girl Anya laughed very hard. It was a funny and comical situation. Thank you very much, but we will not join any clubs. I'm a girl. I don't want to fight at all. I'll tell you more, I am against violence. You better ask these questions to the guys. Recruit them to your club, Anya said. Well said, the girl who recruited for the club. She tightly squeezed the leaflets in her hands, which contained all the information about their legendary club. She really regretted that she was unable to hook them and lure her club. Gene heard men talking behind him. He turned around halfway to listen and see who it was. Two young men were arguing. "Come on. Do you really want to join a martial arts club? Do not make me laugh. How can you be desperate there?" One friend asked another. They got into a serious argument. The guy who wanted to join the club began to argue and defend his opinion. Isn't a martial arts club good? This is a physical education sport to build strength and be healthy. A healthy lifestyle, after all. A friend spoke, but the second friend took him by the hand and pulled him away from this place. "Stop talking nonsense. Started speaking out loud, friend. Building strength and staying healthy is just cheating in traditional martial arts. Trust me, I've read a lot about this. It only happens in movies. Now there are mechs and superpowers. Here is the most fashionable and practical one today. Believe me, only those who have gone crazy and crazy will study traditional martial arts. It's long and impractical." A friend spoke. "Okay, we're leaving, so be it. Hey you, stop." The guy turned sharply. "What? I didn't understand something, did you tell me?" The guy with blonde hair got very angry. He said a lot of negative things about martial arts recruitment. The guy with blonde hair stopped and turned to the president and vice president of the martial arts school. "How can you say that? Who gave you this right? Who are you calling scammers here? We are a legendary school of martial arts. We fall into traditional martial arts." A young man with blonde hair began to be rude and insolent. He put his hands in his pockets. "I don't understand your problem," he said. "No one from your martial arts club has joined. Not a single living soul. If this is not a scam, then what is it? Answer me," the young man said. The club president was very angry. She did not expect such an insult to herself and martial arts in general. She was ready to simply tear this insolent man into pieces. "I don't understand. What do you want to punch in the face? You're looking for trouble, boy," she said. The young man behaved very impudently. "Let's say, and then what?" he said. "Who can you do to me, girl? Go sit at your table and recruit people into your interest group. God forbid that at least one person signed up for you." This completely drove her crazy. She did not expect such impudence, insolence, and tactlessness. How can a guy talk to a girl like that? "Get it," she said. She became persistent and began to strike. The girl continued to deliver the best oriental blows of martial arts. It was a clear, beautiful technique, not a single unnecessary movement, all to the point. She struck and kicked so quickly that the young man simply did not have time to react. A minute later he simply fell to the ground. He grabbed his stomach and held his legs with his hands. His whole body ached. The worst thing was that he was ashamed that an ordinary girl had done this to him. He lay on the ground holding his chest and crying like a girl. "Have you gone completely crazy? Do you dare to hit me? You know who I am. What do you even allow yourself to do? Are you completely tired of living?" The young man swore at her in shock. Another next day arrived. The weather was just as good and sunny. There was practically no wind. Beautiful white clouds floated slowly across the sky. The action again takes place in the schoolyard. "Well, hello again. Now I will teach you a lesson in front of everyone," said the young man, who was wearing a mechanical suit. He was all glowing and electrified. It was clear that magic and superpowers were at work. He came to take revenge for yesterday's insult. "Now I will prove to everyone, so that everyone knows that your martial arts club is just a bunch of scammers." Quite a lot of people gathered in the schoolyard. They all wanted to see how it would all end. Many filmed videos and took photographs. The president of martial arts stood boldly in front of him. The young man in the mechanical suit began to pick up speed and ran to attack. The turbo mode turned on, so the speed was very high, and so they met. The guy started throwing punches in his mechanical suit. He tried to land direct blows directly to the head. Both martial arts managed to fight it all off. It wasn't easy, but she held on. Then the guy launched a series of quick blows. They were very powerful. They came straight to the core of the president of martial arts. She was thrown up and thrown to the side. The president of the martial arts club fell to the ground. At first glance, it seemed that she was lying unconscious. The vice president began to worry about her. "Are you okay? How are you doing? Are you even alive? Answer me, say a word." "Thedo stragi for, ikix, gakakrojau xturao skatu dugars. Warnering sunny froa sterna gokigaldo ho do washer lucky galwakoa." Hein Curl Whirl rose from the ground and stood on her feet. The vice president helped her stay on her feet. It was clear that she had suffered greatly from this boy, who decided to hide behind a mechanical suit. "I'm fine." Proudly, she said. The guy who was in the mechanical suit was very pleased with himself. He understood that this suit gave him a lot of strength, much more than these martial artists. "I have a proposal for you. You two can attack me together. You are two scum of society who practice martial arts." The vice president of the martial arts school did not like this very much. "You take on too much, and you've gone too far, bastard." He shouted loudly. He ran towards him to stab him. The vice president immediately received a powerful blow to the face with his fist. The blow was very powerful. Her face was twisted to one side. He screamed in pain throughout the street. Expansion, and this one is even more garbage than I thought. Look how he fell like a sack of shit. The guy who was wearing a suit laughed loudly. Lying on the ground was the vice president of the martial arts club. He was writhing in pain. It was hard to fight with physical strength against the super strength of a mechanical suit. "I gathered everyone here for a reason. I want everyone to hear this. So I suggest that today you admit your mistake in front of everyone. Admit it to everyone that practicing martial arts is just a scam. This is complete nonsense. Admit it. I'm the one who will let you go," said the young man who was in the mechanical suit. The club president again could not stand it and jumped in a beautiful stance to strike this freak. "Stop talking nonsense. You insult our dignity. Now you will answer for every rotten word you say," she screamed. The young man, who was wearing a mechanical suit, kicked hard and hard. This blow landed right in the stomach. The girl, the president of the martial arts club, flew several meters to the side. She writhed in pain and looked at this young man. The people who stood and watched what was happening began to discuss. "Chuanwu, no match for a sword. The mechanical suit can crush anyone with just one finger. But this is not that level. It was very cool." They spoke. "So I want to hear, do you admit it or not? Do you admit that you are simply charlatans and deceivers? Do you admit that you are not empowering? At least admit that you are much weaker than a mechanical suit, not to mention super strength." The president of the Oriental Arts Club was very disappointed. She was beaten and depressed. Her self-esteem was damaged. Too many people stood and looked at this shame. "I admit it," she said. "Now this is more like the truth. This is a completely different conversation, a completely different matter. We must learn to admit our mistakes. It's not good to deceive people. Nobody needs your martial arts. You haven't signed up a single person. This is your indicator." The young man spoke. "This is your Barca. I admit that I am your grandmother." The club president shouted loudly. "How do you like this freak turn? What can you do without your mechanical suit? What are you capable of without this superpower? You're just a zero." She spoke. A young man in a mechanical suit suddenly flew up to her. Everything around became bright. The electric field was all around them. Another moment, and he could simply destroy and kill her. "Do you want to die?" the young man said. At that moment, a young man in a blue mechanical suit began to strike with his large fists towards the girl. He aimed straight at her head. "Well, why didn't you expect such an ending for yourself?" the young man asked. The girl dodged the blows as best she could. "Today's battle has caused the martial arts club to become a laughing stock in our school. Next, I propose that the martial arts club should simply be disbanded. He is not popular, no one needs him. Then why does he exist in our school? We will forget everything in an instant," one of the guys shouted. The president of the martial arts club quickly rose to her feet. She concentrated. She gathered her will and all her strength into a fist, and she very quickly ran to attack this bastard. She grabbed his big fist with both hands, completely stopped the trajectory of the strike. I blocked this blow completely. The flash and electric discharge scattered in different directions. It seemed that two elements, fire and water, had united. Be careful, be careful. Don't waste your energy, take it with cunning. Case tip vice president of the martial arts club. Just a few seconds later, people were simply shocked. What they saw made their mouths open. They were simply in shock. They didn't understand how it happened. "Blocked," someone from the crowd asked. "They blocked the shot." Someone else shouted out from the people. "How is this possible?" People continued to shout questions from the crowd. Jean stood aside. He watched everything that happened very carefully. This fight was very interesting for him, a demon spirit physique. "There are people on Earth with a special physique," Jean said. "I think the fur club is too much," Jean thought. "Can't you handle it? Don't deceive yourself and people. Today the martial arts club will be closed once and for all." "Mark my words," a young man in a mechanical suit shouted. He began to swing his arms to strike. "It turns out that you have the last word," he asked. "Then get it." The vice president shouted loudly. He accelerated and ran towards the young man in order to deliver the most powerful and insidious roundhouse kick. In an instant they met. Two strong blows, two fists, met together in one period of time. It was as if a short circuit had occurred between their fists. Nobody wanted to give up. Nobody wanted to lose. From such a strong blow and a large fist, the vice president of the martial arts club flew to the side. He fell on his back, flew several meters along the ground. It was very painful. But the worst thing was that it was an insult to the entire school of martial arts. "What the hell? What is this?" The young man, who was wearing a protective mechanical suit, began to ask indignantly. He thought he had already won, but this turned out not to be the case. A strong young man in a protective suit jumped up and hovered. He took a beautiful fighting stance. "Today, I decided to teach you a lesson. This lesson will be not only for you, but also for everyone around you, for our entire school, so that they understand once and for all that you are a charlatan and are nothing of yourself." "Baofu, hold on," the president of the martial arts club screamed loudly. "You can try. Remember everything you can do. Just concentrate on the shot." She screamed and supported him. Paparen was already flying to deliver his blows in a mechanical suit. "Damn it, what to do?" he spoke. His whole body ached from the blows. The right hand did not rise at all. Most likely it was a fracture. He understood perfectly well that he could not continue the fight. Moreover, they resist superpower and a mechanical suit. Suddenly, unexpectedly, Master Jean appeared between the young man in a mechanical protective suit and the vice president of the Oriental Arts Club. He put his hand forward and simply stopped the flow of energy towards the guy with one palm. The vice president of the martial arts club was very happy. It was too unexpected, because there was no one to expect help from. Everyone in this schoolyard was against them. Now it has become very fashionable to join a club where there are superpowers and mechanical suits. Who the hell are you? What are you doing here and what do you need? I don't think I've seen you here before. Go your own way. Don't interfere in your own affairs. The young man continued talking. Jan continued to hold back the onslaught and blows of the mechanical suit with one hand. I have the right to choose where I should be and what I should do, Jean answered. I have business with this man you are going to beat to death. That's why I'm picking it up now, and we're leaving. Dai, who do you think you are, boy? Who are you anyway to talk to me like that? Get out of here. I am the authority here. Although perhaps you want to get the same as they do. So I don't mind. Stay. I have enough strength for everyone. The young man spoke boldly. I don't have that much time to listen to all this nonsense you tell me. I don't want to teach you intelligence, much less politeness. Let your parents or school teachers do this. I will give you one lesson, and you will learn it 100%. I promise you that. Jean grabbed his hand with his other hand and performed a move. Jean simply spun him in the air and threw him with all his might onto the ground. It fell to the ground with such a roar and noise that it seemed like an entire plane had fallen to the ground. All the people who were in the schoolyard froze. There was complete silence all around. The young man lay on his back and still continued to be rude. What else can you do? Is this all you are capable of? I just got distracted. Maybe I just blinked and didn't see your grab. Now I'll get up and we'll talk to you differently, upstart. The young man in the mechanical suit began to rise to his feet from the ground. And you are too brave, boy. It's been a long time since I've met anyone like this on my way. But I don't understand why you're here. And what you want from me. In principle, I don't care, it's your own fault. You'll answer for it now, he said. Jean quickly found it. Jean quickly struck another unnoticed blow. This blow fell to the side of the body. The blow was so strong that a dent appeared on the suit. Where did this wild child come from? How could you dare lay hands on me? The young man said. Did I tell you to leave? I have nothing to do with you. But I urgently need to talk to the person you inflicted bodily harm on, and you idiot are bothering me. Jean raised his hand up and began to charge his power and electric lightning from above. The people who were in the schoolyard began to communicate. This person is also from the martial arts club. This is impressive, one said. Most likely there are only 2 members in the martial arts club. Why is his face not so familiar? He looks like the guy whose girl was taken away. The young man, armored in a protective mechanical suit, rose to his feet. A multicolored energy field could be seen around the suit. This meant that the sphere's power was turned on. Curse well, boy, you got yourself into this trouble, he said, and began to charge the rocket that was on his hand. At that moment some people approached. A man in black trousers and a black jacket shouted loudly. Enough, I said. Stop! He was very serious. From his look, it was clear that he was here for a reason. Vice President Lin, what are you doing here? Asked a young man in a protective suit. Vice President Lin stood with his hands in his pockets and slowly looked at the situation that was happening in the schoolyard. He didn't like this situation. Have you gone completely crazy? What have you done here? What are you doing, boy? Quickly put your rocket launcher away. This is a school, not a shooting range. Don't cause problems for the Fur Club. I hope you understand me, Vice President Lin said. Vice President Lin, this guy is looking for trouble. I can't let the Fur Club lose face. I have to teach him a lesson. Otherwise, any passerby on the street will throw a stone at our garden. They should fear us, and if they fear us, it means they respect us, said the young man in the mechanical suit. Take it away. Take it off and don't embarrass yourself. You don't need heavy weapons to take down a loser, and you hide behind superpower because you are a coward and a weakling. And without armored protection and missiles, you cannot do anything and are not capable of anything. Think about the water, Vice President Lin said. Vice President Lin approached Master Jean. They stood for a long time, looking at each other. Are you Jean? The Vice President asked. They stood again for a long time and looked at each other. Nobody said a word, but it seemed like they had something in common. Yes, I am Jean, Master Jean answered. They stood again and silently looked at each other. Jean kept trying to figure out if they knew each other, maybe from a past life. But so far not a single bright thought had entered his head. He didn't understand how he could know this man. How can he know Vice President Lin? It was let's reveal the cards to make it clearer, Vice President Lin said. I'm the boyfriend of a girl named Lily. Lily and your girlfriend Juan are best friends. You must know her exactly. Lily always runs like a dog after Juan, always next to her, always at her feet. Started laughing, Mr. Vice President. Two girlfriends appeared behind Vice President Lin. They didn't have to wait long. They are always the center of attention whenever anything happens. It was Lily and Juan. Lily was indignant and asked loudly, Lin, what are you doing? What can you talk about with this idiot? Joan looked into John's eyes. John, is that you? What are you doing here? You left, right? Juan asked. She didn't look very good at that moment, to be honest. Disheveled hair, tired face, and unhealthy looking. Jane, what are you doing? Juan spoke. Are you causing problems again? Are you sticking your nose where it doesn't belong again? How do you manage to ruin everything around you? I was very indignant, Juan. Lily hugged her boyfriend very tightly. Lin, look at him. He is an ordinary student with no status or background. Lily spoke. He is always looking for trouble, and most importantly, he finds it. What are you thinking about, Lin? Lily asked. Jean, come on, I'll give you a chance to apologize, Vice President Lin said. Jean looked at the two of them and smiled. Listen, no offense. Do you deserve me to apologize to you? Jean said. This was said very confidently and harshly. The main thing was clear from Jean's face that he was not afraid of anyone at all. What did you say, boy? You're taking on too much. You've lost your fear, or you've gone crazy. One of two things, said the man in the gray mechanical suit. The fur club is no joke at this school. Do you think we deserved it now, or not? Said the second man in a red mechanical suit. The situation was very tense. The president of the club and the vice president of the martial arts club came to John's defense. They shielded him with their backs. Let's start with the fact that this is our problem, that's all. And the student John has nothing to do with this at all. Let's not involve students in our disputes. If you really don't want any problems, just leave here. Leave so that your spirit is not here. Leave so that no one else hears or remembers your martial arts club, said the man in the mechanical suit. The president and vice president of the martial arts club were insulted again in front of everyone. They couldn't stand it anymore. They were ready to die right now, but to defend the honor and dignity of Eastern martial arts. Attacking them! Come on, they shouted. A very large and serious battle began. The man in the mechanical suit jumped up and turned on all his magic and superpowers. A hot, bright fire surrounded his body. Then die and get what you deserve, he said, and jumped on the martial artist. The blows of the man in the mechanical suit were, of course, tens of times stronger than those of the martial arts master. It was clear that they could lose this fight quickly. Damn, I can't withstand these blows, he shouted. Master John himself got involved in this fight. He began to use magic. He turned on his superpower, directed electric discharges towards people who were in mechanical suits. Then Jean directed his super strength directly into the back of one of the martial arts masters. These energy rays penetrated directly into his body. They charged it with energy like a battery. What it is? I am filled with energy and strength. The strength just overwhelms me. What is happening to me? The president of the martial arts club spoke. His eyes began to glow purple. The pupils turned red. A very fierce battle continued. The man in the mechanical suit delivered one blow after another. Then you too take my blow. Get it, said the martial arts master. He clasped his fists very hard and returned a punch straight to the body of the man in the iron suit. From such a strong blow, a red crater appeared in the air. The man in the mechanical suit simply flew back with crazy force from the blast wave of this powerful blow. How do you like that? The martial arts master shouted loudly after the man. What? How did this happen? How could a man in a mechanical suit be thrown so far away? I don't understand what just happened, she said, her friend, Lily. The people who stood and saw what happened were simply in shock. The martial artist looked at his hands. He looked at them as if he was seeing them for the first time. There was a red cloud around his body. This is the energy dome that covered his body. It protected him, gave him energy and strength. I don't understand what just happened, the master asked himself. Jane stood and watched the martial arts master. He was thinking, as always, this guy's physique is truly extraordinary. He has all the makings to become a great warrior. All that remains is to learn and develop these abilities for yourself. The president and vice president of the martial arts club stood and discussed the ongoing battle. Bao, how are you feeling? She asked. Bao was still standing and looking at his hands. He was in shock. I didn't feel anything. I don't understand why I suddenly became so powerful and strong, he said. Do you think I have awakened some special ability? He laughed. Or maybe I've developed a golden finger or something. Do you think this is possible? He asked. Arriving in this euphoria, the master took another stance. He made a menacing appearance, focused his face. He frowned. He began to name some invented spells. Strength, strength, are you here? Come. Come on, I'm waiting for my strength from above. Come, he spoke. The martial artist constantly cast these fictitious spells. He stomped his feet, clapped his hands, stood in different poses, but the strength never came to him. The girl got angry and shouted, "Stop dreaming already. Wait a second. I just saw John take a step towards me. Do you think it could be him? Could he be my superpower?" Wow! John really stood behind them and listened in on them. He found it funny to watch his reaction. Lily quickly ran up to her boyfriend. He stood with his elbows on one knee. Did he rise from the ground? Lynn, are you okay? How are you, dear? Don't be silent. At least say a word. Are you okay? Are you not hurt? Okay, I'm fine. I'm fine, don't worry. I was careless, therefore I allowed them to believe that they could defeat me, but they are too deeply mistaken about this. Lin waved his hand and asked Lily to step aside. It's great that you're okay, dear. I'm proud of you. Then go and tear these clones to pieces. Show them who's boss. Show them who is the strongest here. Come on, dear. I'm with you. Lily supported him. Lily supported her boyfriend in every possible way. She began to flirt with him and flirt with him. Come on, dear. You are the best, my dear. Defeat them. And then tonight, I'll show you some of my signature moves too. But it's not just you and me who will see this. Lily spoke. Hey, you scum from the martial arts club. Now you've really pissed me off. This rarely happens to me, but you managed it. Now let's see if you can handle my blow. Shouted Link, who was in a mechanical suit. The man in the powerful mechanical suit had almost thrown his punch with his right hand. The swing of this blow was very serious. The martial artist got scared and shouted, Jean, please help me. I beg you. Come on, don't panic, Jean shouted. All will be. The main thing is to hold on. Don't let me down. Jean spoke. At that moment, Jean quickly touched the martial artist's back with his palm. All the energy that was in him, the super strength and the power of lightning, was directed into his body. Prepare. Prepare for defeat. You are finished. Mr. Lin, who was in a mechanical suit, shouted. It seemed to him that he dealt the strongest blow to the Eastern Master. The blow hit him right in the chest. The energy barrier that Jean put up saved him from death. What is this again? The man in the mechanical suit was indignant. The blast wave from this blow pushed him away several meters. Microwaves did not allow him to get close to the martial arts master. And the master stood as if nothing had happened. Not a single scratch. White sparks flew in different directions. Electric lightning pierced his entire body, his entire protective suit. The strongest armor he had could no longer hold up. A man in a mechanical iron suit stood and didn't understand what was happening. He was smoking all over. The lights on his suit flickered on and off. I don't understand how this is possible. How can an ordinary person resist the super strength that is in my best mechanical suit? The martial arts master stood proudly and looked at the enemy. There was an energy field of fire around him. Was Lily's friend standing next to them? She was angry and scared. Why did this start happening? How did this man, who constantly lost in single combat, suddenly become so strong? My Lin has never lost to anyone. Did you say? Mr. Lin was simply heartbroken. He did not expect such a defeat, so everything started well. Ah yes, at one point something went wrong. It was as if this martial artist had been replaced, or he was possessed by a demon, or a superpower unknown to humanity has awakened in him. He simply had no other explanation. People gradually began to disperse. The schoolyard is almost empty. Only our heroes remained on it. Mr. Lin was on his knees almost exhausted and could not get up. His friend Lily ran up to him. Of course, Juan's friend is always nearby. There's nothing more interesting here. Go here, the Gene said to his friend Anya. He put his hands in his pockets and walked slowly. Many could envy his calmness. Juan looked at Jean and thought, I wonder why Jean has changed so much lately. Or does he still remain the same? Unclear. Of course, Juan was a little jealous of him. She was possessive. She just wanted him to suffer without her. Arjan, on the contrary, every time a Pine Beauty friend appeared in front of her. Know the most important thing, Jean. No matter how you change, you will still remain that loser whom I abandoned. You will remain someone I don't need. After all, without me, you are nothing. Juan reasoned. She was very angry with Jean. After the martial artists recovered from the shock, they saw that the Gene was leaving. Hero! My hero, wait a minute, the martial artist shouted. They ran to catch up with Jean. What? Jean asked. Of course, he liked that this martial artist called him a hero. No one has ever called him that before. Jean stood calmly and watched as these people ran up to him. The martial arts masters, the president and vice president of the martial arts club, ran up to the Gene. The two of them got down on one knee and extended their hands forward. This was their ritual, which Jean did not know. Thanks for the help, hero. Please accept our greetings, they said. Jean found it very funny. I welcome such people. I have never seen a plan in my life. Neither in this life nor in his previous life he saw this. None of even the most famous masters did what these guys do. My God, where did you learn this? Jean said, and grabbed his face with his hand. We have seen this in television series. Everyone there does it. John, thanks to you and your help, you did a good deed. Thanks to you, the martial arts club did not close today. The girl extended her hands to Jean and began to speak. Jean, we have one request for you. You are a great warrior. But that's not even the main thing. The main thing is that you have a good heart, and you are clearly fighting on the side of good. This is noticeable not only to me, as a martial artist, it is noticeable to absolutely any mortal person. We would like to ask you to join our martial arts club. It will be a great honor for us. You are the person people will look up to. You are the one that kids will want to be like when they are growing up. The girl spoke. Sorry, of course, but I'm not interested in the martial arts club, Jean answered. I just don't know what I'll do in it. To be honest, I don't know your techniques, especially in your funny greetings. Jean continued talking. Please listen carefully. I have a very good offer for you. John, if you join the martial arts clubs, we will make you the president of our club. They said, you haven't joined any other club yet. Small students are required to join the club, and instead of joining others, why don't you join us? Our skills will not go to waste. Meat with vegetables, meat with vegetables. Friend Anya added, Jean really isn't telling the truth. Every new student must join a club. This must be done. These are the rules. Is this true? Jean asked. Okay, deal. I'll join the martial arts club, as you asked. I hope I will be of use to you there. The main thing is that you teach me your techniques. The martial artists were very happy. They began jumping up and down with joy, clapping their hands and raising their hands up. But I have a request, Jean said. Bao, you should help me with something in the future. No problem. I am ready to help you for the rest of my life. Jean and his friend Anya turned around and walked away. They walked with slow steps along the streets of this city. It was very wonderful weather. They had not seen each other for a very long time. They had something to tell each other. So many events happened. It's too late, Jean. I have to go back to the dorm, Anya said. To be honest, Jean didn't want to leave. Time flew by very quickly next to Anya, and he wanted to be near her all the time. Jean thought about it. I should check my dorm too. Since I came back, I haven't been to my dorm yet. We need to find out what is there and how. Anya stood and did not leave. She constantly looked at Jean. She looked at him with loving eyes. This day was simply wonderful for her because she spent the whole day with him. "Jean, I'm very glad that we spent this time together," Anya said, in a trembling voice. She raised her hand to her lips and looked with her blue eyes at the guy she really likes. Anya said this phrase. Then suddenly she turned around and quickly ran towards the dorm. She didn't say another word. Jean began to think. In a past life, if I remember correctly, there was an accident with Anya, and he became a vegetable before he graduated from school. Memories began to emerge in Jean's memory. It was at that time that I was framed by Hu Tianhua, and my whole life was miserable. Everything did not go as I had planned and absolutely not as I dreamed. Jean continued to remember. Although I was sad to learn about Anya's accident, but I couldn't do anything at all. At that moment I had nothing. There was no power, no money, no status and respect. However, in this life, I will make sure that this kind girl who stood up for me then has a good ending and a happy future. Jean approached the dorm doors. He began to remember. It seemed to him that absolutely nothing had changed. The same doors, the same porch, the same windows. Everything is as it was before. Jean stopped and thought, so I'm wondering, do these people still live in this hostel, or no longer? Maybe they grew up and moved away. Perhaps so much time has passed that they are no longer alive. Although, no. If I am here at this age, then they should be here too, at the same age as me, Jean thought. Jean went into the hostel and met a guy with glasses. He held a basin in his hands. There were dirty things in the basin. This guy with glasses was very surprised to see Jean here again. "Jean, what are you?" the guy asked in surprise. "Yes, it's me. Or do you see someone else here?" Jean said. "You returned." The guy with glasses was happy. "I think so, I'm back." "Glad to see you, friend," Jean said. Memories from childhood began to emerge. The guy in front of me is Jean. Although he is a little timid and weak, he is my best friend. In a past life, in the most difficult times, it was Jean who tried to help me. The guy with glasses took Jean's hand. I started taking him aside to talk. "Where did you be all this time? Come on, tell me. They say that you and Juan broke up again, and it is Mr. who is creating all these problems. Don't let it take over you," said the guy with glasses. As one great wisdom says, there are a lot of fish in the sea. If you don't catch one, take it and find another. Suddenly, from the end of the room, a sneaker flew straight into the face of the guy with glasses. This was pure rudeness. The guy with glasses was scared. It was clear from his gaze. It was clear and obvious that he knew where this sneaker came from and whose it was. "Yunkai, keep your voice down. I can't sleep because of you." A blond guy in white shorts shouted loudly. It was clear that he sets his own rules here. "Fen, sorry, I'll be quieter," the guy with glasses said in a frightened voice. Your case was very frightened. This was evident from his appearance. His beard trembled from fear. "Give me my sneaker, or do you want me to go after him myself? I should be resting, not doing this nonsense." The blond guy continued talking. Now, wait 1 minute. I'll bring everything." The boy spoke in a frightened voice. His arms and legs trembled with fear. Jean stood and looked at this whole picture from the side. He understood one thing. This rudeness must be stopped and punished. God, how tired I am of living in the same room with him, the boy thought. When will this all end? I still have to live in the same room with this freak for a few more years. I will go crazy. I live here as his servant, the boy thought to himself. The boy with glasses walked up to the sneaker and began to bend down to pick it up. Jean stopped him. "Don't do this, I told you. Don't humiliate yourself in front of him." Jean continued talking. Jan took the boy with glasses by the hand. "Do you throw your own things around the room and wait for someone else to pick them up?" Jean asked, loudly and confidently. "It seems to me that you are behaving inappropriately. This is my friend, and I'm used to helping my friends." Jean spoke. "Hey, hurry up, bring me my sneaker. I'm already tired of waiting. I want to go to the toilet. Let's hurry up quickly." A blond guy in white shorts shouted in an insolent voice. He sat on the bed with one leg dangling down. "It's okay, John," said boy with glasses. He leaned down to pick up the sneaker. "We all live together in this dorm. It turns out that we are one family. It turns out that helping each other is normal." The boy spoke. The boy approached Fen. "Here, take it," said boy with glasses. Fen very brazenly put his bare leg forward and said, "Come on, put it on for me and quickly. The hairdryer seems too much to me. You're crossing all boundaries. I didn't hire you to work for me. I am not your personal servant. Take the sneaker and put it on yourself," said boy with glasses. "Set aside. I said to put aside all unnecessary conversations. Do what I tell you, then you will live peacefully in this hostel. I think I won't have to explain simple truths to myself several times," Fen spoke. "Baby, put them on. I need them on me quickly. One damn sneaker and I'll go to the toilet. If you keep me here with my pee, then I'll splatter your whole face. You understood me?" Fen started screaming. "Fen, wait. We are all classmates here. I can give you a little help and that's it, but this sneaker story is just too much. It won't be good if this spreads and rumors spread." The boy with glasses spoke. "Baby, what are you telling me here? You're just a common coward. Have I lost my authority in front of you? Something I can't understand. Are you going to put sneakers on me or not?" "Answer." Fen spoke. Jean is tired of this. He walked up to the boy, put his hand on him, and answered, "No." Fen was very surprised and scared. He recognized him. "Jean, what are you? But how are you here? I heard that Mr. Hu stole your favorite girl. Didn't that bother you? How did you get through it? I don't see this enough for you and you decided to interfere in my affairs?" Fen asked. "Oh, I love this game." Fen spread his legs apart. "Come on, boys, hurry up. I'm giving you a chance to prove yourself. Show yourself to me. Show what you are capable of. Each of you will put one sneaker on me. Whoever does it faster will be the champion." Fen continued to mock. Jean could no longer tolerate this mockery. He took the sneaker in his hands and hit Fen in the face with all his might. This scoundrel flew to the side. Even drool flew out of his mouth. This is the simplest blow. No magic, no superpower. This is from me personally to you, Jean said. Fen held his head. He was in great pain. Jean continued talking. "Now remember, freak, in this dorm I will set the rules. They will live here according to my rules. They will be simple but fair. I'm back, which means my life here is just beginning. This is my life, my destiny. And it won't be the same as before. I am telling you this, Master Jean, to be continued."